Now. Live from the We're live, pal. From the Chill Flow Cool Room Studio. I'm shouting too much. Director Tony's already shouting at me. Good evening, everyone. We're live for our first live Footy and Frothies podcast. Here I am, Daggy, with Barney Boy, Ollie the Oracle, and Johnny's back for his fourth go. I'm used to talking with like 100 people at a pub, so it's weird being indoors.
It's a
We've
bit
got
quiet,
the chat going. And so jump on board and tell us what peanuts we are as we go through. But how are we, boys? Johnny, how have you been?
Been good. Footy's been good. Dramatic. So it's
What,
been fun.
what have you made of the rule changes and the crackdown? Well, not so much rule changes, crackdown the last few weeks?
I think it's like what everyone's saying. It'll take some time getting used to, but ultimately long term for the good of the game. But yeah, bit of teething problems at the moment. Weird timing to bring it in, but I think it's something they had to do eventually. So no surprises.
Do you think it's something that's going to just wear off in a couple of weeks, like the old play the ball crackdowns and everything else, or it's here to stay?
I think the one person that's kind of given a bit of a pathway has been Holbrook in his post-match press conference. He said he had a bit of experience when he was coaching in the Super League, saying that they've kind of figured out a system that everyone knew how to make as black and white as possible of a grey area. So whether they implement stuff like that and have like a clear system of how they're going to send people off so there's no confusion, no idea. But I mean, there's no real right answers at the moment from how they've brought it in. So.
Fair enough. Ollie, how's your week been?
Yeah, pretty good. Had the aforementioned race day over the weekend. As I said last week on the podcast. I don't bet, but I was, tipping horses, myself and Mrs. Ollie, and one of them was like a massive outsider. And I was like, I'll pick that one because it's from Ireland. Lucky the Irish, and it won. And right at the end too. So I was like, in hindsight, should have put the house on it.
Would have been a good day.
Yeah, in hindsight. But yeah, it was good fun. And
Didn't make it to the Manly game?
I didn't end up going. I was very tired, let's just say, the next day. We went to Para Leagues afterwards and then stayed at the hotel and had a few drinks together into the night. So that was good. And yeah.
Didn't see you on the news.
Oh, that's good. Oh, well, the Titans game was still going on after the last race, so I couldn't jump in front of a horse. But one of the jockeys actually got thrown off its horse before the race, and it was the one that all my mates were on. And the bloke ended up, I think he did must have pulled something in his arm because the horse jumped, and he tried to hold on, went over the front, and I thought, shit, this horse is just going to run over the top of him here. But it looked and it turned and ran off. But yeah, Alan Whitaker's horse, his dad's horse, Savory, didn't place, but it was pretty cool getting to see that run in person. And it was just a really good day.
And Barney, how's your week been?
Yeah, mate, back at work, so it's gone down a cog or two, but no, life's good. Life's good. Self?
No, it's been good, yeah. Kicking off a new gig, so a bit of fun there as well. So seeing how we go. And we got Director Tony Coulson. He'll chime in when need be throughout the day. I guess the big news of the week is the loss of Bob Fulton, a bloke who, obviously one of the first batch of Immortals, a bloke who captained his country, coached his country, captained premierships, coached premierships, was a New South Wales selector forever, administrator. Ultimately, Barney and I talked earlier, and we probably can't pay the due respect to Bozo that some people have through the week because we weren't around to see him in the flesh play. But any thoughts you want to really add before?
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. As you said, there's not much that we can really say about it. I've seen the highlights that everybody else sees that constantly come up from his career. I have watched the grand final where he single-handedly beat Cronulla on it a couple of times myself, and you can just see he was just a very tough, very skillful player, and incredibly football smart. He played 200-plus games for Manly, his country, New South Wales. He went on to coach New South Wales, I believe, and Australia for quite a long time with pretty good records to go with him. So he's one of the first batch of Immortals, and he's going to be a legend of our game until we're gone, I would imagine, and further into the future. So,
anything from you boys?
Well, yeah, I've seen the 73 grand final too. The full game's actually on YouTube, so if anyone out there hasn't seen Bozo play, I suggest, it was arguably his greatest ever game, so I suggest you go over and watch it. it was just interesting to see, and I think I brought it up on the podcast before, how back then in that game in particular, all the players really went out there just to try and smash each other and beat the shit out of each other, but it didn't really add an advantage for either team. They just went out there and tried to slug each other out. And it's like Bozo went there and thought, well, literally everyone else on the field's doing nothing other than trying to take their heads off. I'm actually going to play football, which actually, the way he played wasn't too dissimilar to how they play today, and it worked, and he literally won the grand final for Manly. So there you go.
Yeah, I think going off what Ollie said there, I think in what you were saying, Dags, before, you go through his list of accolades and it's just endless, and he's done it at all levels, from coaching to playing to selecting to captain his country. But like Ollie said, he's kind of one of those visionaries for the modern game. So even though we didn't watch him at his pomp, I mean, the impact of his legacy is kind of still there today with all the players that he's brought through. I think he's still very influential at the Manly club, and I think they paid him perfect tribute on Sunday, so it was good to see.
Yeah, well, I guess my main Bozo memories, the continuous call team was pretty much religious listening for me from about the age of 16 through to the mid-20s. That was the original. Well, the crew I sort of chimed in was Ray, Bozo, Blocker and Broman, and the various evolutions of that, and he was a big part of that. And from midday every Saturday and Sunday, that was on, whether I was in the kitchen or doing the lawns or whatever it was, that was in the background. So
seemed to have a very down-to-earth kind of fella too. Came through on the radio.
Yeah.
He's very funny at times as well. He had some good stories about being on the farm and all the rest of it. And him and Hadley got along extraordinarily well, obviously. That was quite a good tribute I saw during the week, I thought, from Ray Hadley. So obviously
we'll leave it to the likes of Ray and Paul Kent and Buzz and the ones that all did the tribute throughout the week can all pay much better respects than we can. So, Vale, Bob Fulton, there is a state funeral. Anything you want to add, Director Tone? You're the only one that probably saw him in the flesh. No, he's waved it off. Fair enough. Should we run through judiciary news first of all, before we get into the other couple of talking points from the news?
Could be here for a while.
Well, very quickly, Radley unsuccessful, so got 5 weeks. Yes. What do you think of Victor's 2 shots, Johnny? 3 shots?
It's just part of the new rules. I mean, you look at both of them, he's made contact with the head and it's forceful. So within that black and white, he's got to go. I understand his frustrations, but I mean, the first one, he's kind of leaped off the ground and he's collected the kicker with his shoulder. Yep. Second time round, he's collected Tavita Pangai. If he aims a little bit lower, which is, there's no big difference on the impact of the tackle if he goes a bit lower. He gets the force that he wants in the tackle without, threatening his time on the field. So I don't think you'd have any complaints for either of them. The fact that it got to that point where he's on report a couple of times, sin bin twice, I thought he was actually pretty lucky to stay on the field for the rest of the game as well. He ended up playing an hour of the game. I thought he probably could have seen half of that if the referee was feeling so obliged. So, it's probably some of the frustration that the commentators and the fans have raised in this past week, but I don't think you can have any complaints in hindsight.
Ollie?
Yeah, well, I've seen some people also complaining about him getting 5 weeks, but that's simply down to carryover points. Like, he's been in trouble before.
Yeah, and the fact that he challenged it and lost, which always adds an extra week on top of it as well.
Yeah, so honestly, I'm fine with it.
I thought it could have been maybe a week less, but at the end of the day, that's the rules we live by these days, isn't it? So,
yeah, Angus Crichton, 2 weeks. I thought that was particularly soft for a... You could argue strongly, and he didn't get off, but a defensive decision. I thought that was a bit disappointing. That was something to do again with carryover points there. So,
he obviously tried to get the time off so he could play in the Origin. He rolled the dice and lost. I probably thought he could have been given a downgrade into 1 week and been able to play Origin. I didn't think it deserved 2 weeks. But
does that reek a little bit of stamping a message, like sending a message?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think anyone was really going to get off this week, to be honest.
Yeah. And 1 week for RCG, Capewell, Dugan, Wilton, Hiroti, Lodge, Gamble, Kerr, Tamalolo and Burr, to quickly run through there.
They were all guilty pleas, I'm pretty sure,
guilty pleas, and there's a bunch of fines, which I didn't write down. Injuries, Munster and Papanaz have both, Panisi's basically said they're probably 3 or 4 weeks away now, so in doubt for Origin. Harry should be okay, Harry Grant should be okay for Origin. And Kenny Bromwich and Riley Jacks should be about a week away now. So that's, I guess, the major injury.
So they'll be all right for Origin then?
They'll be right for Origin. Blake Green retired immediately after his three re reconstructions, or even 3 knee reconstructions.
Yes.
Any comments? I suppose he's the definition of tradesman, really, Blake Green. Oh.
Well, I'd personally like to bring up his time in England a little bit. I'll be the Trev this week, speaking about his time. But honestly, over there, he tore it up, won a couple Super League grand finals, won the Harry Sunderland Trophy, which is their version of the Clive Churchill Medal in a grand final. So over there, he was an absolute gun. So I'd say that'd definitely be the highlight of his career, although I personally didn't see too much of it either. And just seeing the Wigan fans today in their supporter group just talk about how good a player he was over there, I think that was pretty nice.
Yeah, had a fairly strong career. He wasn't one of your superstar players, but there was a time there just before he did go over to England where he was one of the better halves running around in the competition. He went over there, obviously dominated over there, but injury was a big part of his career for his entire career, and sadly it's ended it early for him. So, but yeah.
Well, the timing a bit peculiar. As soon as he retired, the very next day, the talk of that 3-team swap has come straight up, and they conveniently have an additional slot in their top 30 now.
Fraction of pressure, you reckon, maybe? From
So
the
now
club?
they can add, I think Clifford it was from the Cowboys, and now looking to add Lodge at the same time. So,
Because wasn't the mail going to be the straight swap clamour for Lodge? Does that mean that's where there's smoke, there's fire, that's potentially next?
yeah, I think there's a few forwards there that could be doing a bit of a merry-go-round out of Brisbane. I think them pushing out a few that they've got and looking to add Clem is a bit weird because he's not the cheapest forward going around, even though he's still pretty top quality from what he's performing this year. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird one with what's going on at the Broncos. But I just thought that was a bit funny with.
Well, I was going to bring up in the Sharks game, but given just how Townsend played last week, he doesn't want to be there. Could this be like will the merry-go-round start? Apparently he's played his last game at Brisbane. Does that mean Townsend probably goes sooner rather than later? Clifford gets down to Newcastle sooner rather than later. What's left? There's one more there that. And
Scotty Drinkwater's still up there at the Cowboys.
Drinkwater, but he's re-signed.
Yeah. Like, he's playing his best footy, so I don't know how they'll fit all three of them at the same time.
Well, potentially 4, yeah.
I think Dearden will be a work in progress up there myself. I don't think he's going to come straight into that team. But
yeah.
And the George Williams saga, Ollie might have been the closest to this throughout the week. Any thoughts?
I just hate how people have dealt with it. I've said on this podcast before, I'm pretty sure I can at least respect most journalists to an extent. I always give them the benefit of the doubt when they get stuff wrong because I know there's so many variables in that, and probably until today, James Hooper was one of those people, but the way in which he's dealt with this whole George Williams situation, especially after Williams has come out and said that he wants to go back due to mental health issues, and the fact that his wife is pregnant and they want a support network in England, and he's come out today and said, well, why were you talking to rival clubs in the NRL, which I don't think is true, especially based off of what George has been talking about. And honestly, I hope he goes back over to England, most likely to Wigan, and has an enjoyable career over in England. He's still the number one choice for England halfback for me, at least for the World Cup this year. So he'll still get that top grade footy at the end of the year, and yeah, good on him.
Does it advance the Jackson Hastings situation?
Possibly. It all depends if Wigan are willing to release him early and they want to get Williams in straight away. They're currently undefeated in Super League, so it depends as well if they want to, risk disrupting the flow of the team at the moment, as happy as they would be to have him back. But, that's obviously a key position, and that would also mean releasing their best player. So it depends. I think Canberra would probably want something to do with that too, possibly a merry-go-round. I know people have mentioned Reynolds, who knows, maybe Mbai would end up at Canberra until the end of the year. So I think that could come into it if Jackson Hastings was to go to the Tigers early.
Yeah, I think if they get Hastings, they're going to be less inclined to want to fight by leaving, I suppose, like they were a couple of weeks ago. Johnny, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I was going to mention this later in the pod, but that whole saga last night on NRL 360 was a bit of carry on. I think James Hooper doubling down today with the article that he pushed out saying, over to you, George. I think, journalists are privy to a lot of information.
Isn't it just Bateman all over again, though?
Yeah. I think that's what he's...
Bateman lined him up too.
Yeah.
You lined him up again yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, journos are privy to whoever tells them the story, and if you're hearing it from one side, that's the angle that you're going to go for it.
Of course, yeah.
And it looks pretty damning that all the information he's got seems to be coming straight from Ricky Stewart's mouth. So, of course, that's the angle he's going to take, and he's not going to burn any bridges with someone that's going to give him that much. His connections are supreme when it comes to his line of work. So it was just a bit of carry on that I think everyone forget about in a week or two and it'll just be play on.
Well, I'm also going to play devil's advocate here a little bit, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is the case, but it's funny how, first of all, John Bateman and now the George Williams sagas are the ones that Hooper and Fox in particular are blowing up about. Is there possibly a deep-seated, maybe a bit of an unconscious bias against the British talent here?
Possibly.
I'm not saying it is, but I
think so.
I couldn't read too much into that.
No,
I think
it could be something to do with the fact that they're both. I don't know, and I watch 360 probably like all of us do, but I think both of those blokes are pretty close to Ricky as well. They're probably going to go that way.
It's the thing is as well, like many of the comments I've seen and the reaction from people to the announcement and all the Fox stuff, it's a lot of attacks targeted at people from Britain, not just George Williams. It's like
I think it makes it a bigger story, especially to the club and the supporters of the club, that both those players were given transfer fees to come here, which doesn't happen over here, you know what I mean? So the club's gone out of their way to pay a bit of extra cash to get them here in the first place. And for them both to leave early on their contracts, I think it leaves a bit of a sour taste, which gets people a bit fired up. But
we'll see. If I'm a Raiders fan, that's probably a good way of explaining it. Whereas, let's just say a lot of the comments, I sent it in our chat, a lot of the comments we've seen are just downright disgusting. And I'd say a couple of them are probably racist. Like, they are genuinely racist.
Social media is anything and everything. It can be great.
From the chat, Gumpy's in the chat. He couldn't be tonight, but he said, he agrees Clifford goes straight to the Knights. And he suggests Williams has spoken to South for sure. Chris Abood up the Eels, hashtag Denny Scaife, and Supercoach Wise thoughts on Sam Walker to Burton this week. Chris Abood, are you Danon? But we will get to that chat, Supercoach chat in the second half. Gumpy, thanks for chiming in. Keep chiming in there. Agree with the Clifford stuff. That's about the news. Any other news, Ollie, that we need to get to?
Look, there's a couple of signing notes here, but last week I think we went on a bit too long, so I'm happy to just read it out, and then if there's anything in particular afterwards, we can chime in and have a quick chat.
That's fine.
Yeah, so this is since last Thursday. AJ Brimson's re-signed with the Titans until the end of 2026 officially. Peter Hiku joins the Cowboys officially on a 2-year deal from next season. Nine's Wide World of Sports are reporting that Matt Duffy has been told to look elsewhere by the Dragons as they pursue Nico Hines.
Very quickly... we'll save that for the Dragons game. We'll talk about Cody Ramsey then.
Okay.
Yeah. Fox Sports reporting Cronulla are looking to bring in Mitchell Pearce next season to re-link up with Craig Fitzgibbon. George Williams released to return to England. Fox Sports reporting that the Bulldogs are trying to sign both Kobe Hetherington and Corey Pakes from the Broncos. Walters confirms that Brisbane and the Cowboys are in talks to move on Tom Dearden immediately.
Fair enough. So to get a bit of chat going, I suppose Johnny hasn't been here since early on in the season. We first of all said we'll revisit our top 8 predictions. I used the NRL.com ladder predictor. I didn't use the margins because I was too lazy, but came up with a general idea. Johnny, from your point of view, who can you now see clearly missing the 8? Who's your top 4? Have you gone to the trouble of putting together a new top 8?
I haven't, but I was looking through the week. Manly are shoe-ins for the top 4.
How good's their draw?
They're playing
amazing.
2 teams from the top 4, one team from the top 8, and the rest is just fodder for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
They'll be nailed on for a top 4 spot. They're only 4 points outside of it already, so I think they're one they'll come through. I think Roosters, just injuries are going to take their toll. I think they'll probably just hang on to a top 8 spot.
I think, I'm starting to feel like that wall's about to crack with the Roosters. They held on for a long time, and I think... It won't be the first time they get beat by a team like Brisbane. They're
just putting together a 17 every week, and now you're looking at Crichton's gone. You look at who can come in to replace him. It's a bit thin at that end of the field. Dragons, they started well. When I was on the show, I said they'd start house on fire and then they'll slip away, and that's slowly starting to come to its head. They're just struggling to put on points when they need to, and Cowboys, I want to say they'll make the 8. They've got another solid run as well coming through, and they look to have found that recipe where they can get the best out of Holmes, they can get the best out of Tamalolo, and they're filling out that squad with some very good performers, especially in that back line with Talangi coming through. Tabuai Fido, he's coming back. David Bowen's playing really well since he's come back as well. So a bunch of those teams that we were talking about were more likely to get a wooden spoon, look like they'll be making some 8 from the time I was here.
Barney?
Yeah, well, I haven't gone and had a look at it in depth, but I think your top 5 or 6 are pretty much going to be the same as what we said at the start of the year, except for possibly Manly, which we all agree now is if they can keep up their current form for the next 6 to 8 weeks, they're going to find themselves well and truly cemented in that top 8. You're still going to have your 4 to 6 teams all fighting in and around probably 6 points of that top 8 at the back end of the year with your Titans, your Warriors. Someone like Brisbane, if they can continually put together performances like they did against the Roosters, they're going to be starting to push towards the 8. I agree with Johnny. I think the Dragons look like they're on a slide, and if they keep getting blokes suspended each week, they're going to be in a bit of trouble. That's a big question mark now about how teams are going to go week to week. Realistically, if you get 2 or 3 of your better players suspended each week for even if just the 1 week, it can take a game that everyone expected you to win and put you in a 50-50 position.
Well,
for
really,
that game,
only you'd say Penrith and Melbourne can absorb that. I know Easts have
and obviously the Raiders have fallen away. I don't know what's going to happen with the Raiders. I don't think they're going to make the 8, and I thinking they might even be closer to the bottom than the top.
Ollie went to the trouble of margin, so I'll save him for last. I came out with top 8 of Panthers, Storm, Eels, Manly 4th, Bunnies, Roosters, I had Warriors going on a run, and then Titans, Broncos will come down to differential for me because I didn't do the differential. So, and then Raiders, Tigers, Cowboys were the rest, and I don't need to talk about the bottom 4 there. Ollie?
Yeah, so in first I've got Penrith. I do have them losing 1 game, and that's that game against Melbourne in round 20 on 46 points. Melbourne in second on 44. I'm tipping them to not lose again this year. I know it's very unlikely realistically, but I mean, if any team's going to do it, it's either Penrith or Melbourne. Third, Parramatta, so I think we're the exact same there. Fourth, I do have the Roosters. I still think they will beat a few teams and handily as well, just towards the bottom of the ladder, and that gets them 4th over Manly on for and against. So again, it's just that point scoring ability of the Roosters. 6th, I've got South Sydney dropping right down. I've actually got them winning 1 of their last 4 games. 7th, I've got the Warriors, who I've got winning 4 of their last 5, and I believe I actually have them on a bit of a winning run before that as well. So the last few weeks of the season, I think the Warriors are really going to have a good time. So if you're a bit sceptical about the Warriors making the 8, I'd probably say they do based off of that draw. And in 8th, I've got the Titans on 24 points. That's 4 points below the Warriors and the Rabbitohs. A 50-50, 12-12 season. In 9th, I've got Canberra, 20 points. I've got them winning 1 of their last 4. I say they do get a couple more wins sort of at the midpoint of the year, maybe. It was really close, a lot of these games to pick. In 10th, I do have the Cowboys. It comes down to for and against why they haven't finished 9th. They're on the same points as the Raiders. In 11th, I do have the Dragons. I am tipping them to maybe win a couple more games in the next couple of weeks, which will keep them out of that bottom 4. However, I do have them losing their last 5 games. The Tigers, now I have them in 12th, and I have them winning 4 out of their last 5. So they might have a bit of an easy draw, which might bump them up there. The Broncos in 13th, I say they win 3 more games this year, and they end the season 2-3, so they'll get a couple of wins there. The Newcastle Knights, on the same amount of points as the Broncos. I'm only tipping them to win 3 more games this year. I don't see them doing too well, but 2 of their last 3.
I just said they won't win another game until something drastically changes. Which Ponga might drastically change, but their defence is
4 points below them in 15th. I've got the Sharks, unfortunately, with 8 points, winning 1 more game this year and losing their last 5. And I've got the Bulldogs in 16th with 6 points, winning 2 more games this year, and I'm tipping those games to be against the Knights and the Sharks.
Is that game this week, the Sharks game?
Against the Bulldogs.
Titans,
Sharks. No, well, are we going down the Sunday afternoon? We're going down the Gums?
Yeah, mate, we'll be there.
Yep.
Sure. All right.
Now the Sharks will win.
Now, that's sort of speculation. Yes, let us know what you think. Who's your top 8?
Did you do a finals as well?
No, because that's... No. Penrith and Melbourne will win all of them and then play each other in the final.
So I've got Penrith and Melbourne in the grand final, Penrith winning, but there's one interesting matchup in the first week of the finals, and that's South up against the Warriors, and based off of form, how I'd have it at that point, I've got the Warriors making the second week, but that's probably the only thing against script, you could say. But
cool.
There you go.
Amy's asked, with Angus out, who do you think will be the New South Wales starting second rowers? Well, lucky, because that's what we're about to do next.
Picking our teams.
Our origin teams. So let's do Queensland first. Let's do the away team first.
We're going to go by position, or we're going to go team?
Go your 1 to 13.
Right, yeah.
What do you reckon? Position will take a long time. Go 1 to 13, and we can bag each other on the way through.
Right. Where are we starting?
Go Queensland 1 to 17, I should say. Barney? Oh, you and who?
Yeah, okay, I'll start. I'm going to have, I've got Ponga as my number 1, Xavier Coates number 2, Gagai and Capewell at 3 and 4, Val Holmes at 5. I've got Munster in at 6 at the moment, obviously depending on whether he's fit or not. I've got DCE at 7. Fotuaika is one of my starting props. Mahoney at 9. Welch at 10. Kafusi and Fafita in the back row. And Tino to Fusilami. lock in the scrum. Depending on injury, as I said, I've got AJ or Grant playing 14. If fit, I'd have Grant starting in front of AJ Brimson. I've got Arrow, Sewer and Kerr to round out my 17 as the bench players.
Sewer in doubt?
He's been dropped by South this week, so that could put him out.
Okay.
Well, that's why I haven't picked him, because I did have him in there, and then I checked and I thought,
Ollie, you go next.
Yeah, so I think at least in the starting
So
side,
if Munster's not fit, who plays 6?
I'm going to move Ponga to 6 and then AJ to fullback.
Yeah, so I've only got one difference in my starting lineup, at least to Barney. So I've got Ponga fullback, Coates and Holmes on the wing, Gagai and Capewell in the centres. I've got Munster at 6, but if not, I've chucked in Sam Walker. I sort of like the story of it as well. And I think with Cherry Evans alongside him, who's my halfback, I think he might take a lot of the pressure off him. My props are Christian Welch and Moaki Fotuaika. At 9 at the moment, I do have Harry Grant just because I'm trusting what Frank Panisi said, saying he should be right. So I'm trusting that for now. I've got Fafita and Kafusi in the second row, Big Tino at lock, and then my bench at 14, I've got Reid Marnie, Jared Wallace, Jai Arrow, and Josh Kerr, and he was the one who came in for Sewer for me, Josh Kerr.
I've gone very different.
Nice.
Okay, no, that's good.
Basically, because of that forward rotation, I've taken into account some of the suspension and injuries, but I've got Ponga at fullback, I've got Coates, I've got Murray Talangi on the wing, I've got Opacek and Gagai in the centres. I think Opacek's been brilliant for the Eels. I think defensively he can really hold his own in Origin. Yep. Got Munster at 6, if he makes it. Cherry Evans at 7. Started with Welch and Jared Wallace in the props. If Grant's fit, he starts. If not, Marnie. And if whoever's missed out there has missed out on my 18. I got Kafusi, Fafita and Tino in my back row like everyone else. Ben Hunt is my number 14. I think he's been great. I put Jaden Sewer there, but that's TBC. Obviously, he's been dropped this week by Rabbits. I've got Mo Fotuaika, and I've got Kurt Capewell at 16, basically just because of their forwards are a bit thin with those injuries and suspensions. So I think having that kind of coverage on their bench, I think will help Paul Green.
The versatility helps as well. It can slot into the centres if need be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've gone, obviously Ponga 1, Holmes 2, Gagai 3, Capewell 4, Felt 5. May have got the 2 wingers back to front, but you know what I mean. Reece Walsh at 6, if Munster's out.
I like it.
DCE, obviously, Mo at 8, Harry 9. If he's not fit, then Marnie starts. Welsh, Fafita, Kafusi, Tino. Papaihi 14, Wallace 15, Arrow 16, and I've actually gone Joffa at 17 because I think he's playing pretty good footy.
Papali'i's suspended for the first.
I think he's ruled himself out of Origin as well.
He did too. Now he's Tongan now or something.
Samoan.
Sorry, I got trouble for that.
I think it's as long as the Johns brothers get the job. But anyway,
no, you're right. That being the case, then probably some other forward.
Save your coats.
Another forward.
I think Kyle Felt's playing pretty good footy.
No, I'm not. I'm just wondering why.
Defensively, I think Felt, if the pumpkin doesn't go on, he's a bit stronger and a little bit better in the air against the New South Wales winger. I'm going to pick AJ's 18th man because if there's a shuffle there, then AJ comes in.
So with my 18th man, I don't think we mentioned one. I've got either Hunt or AJ Brimson. Obviously, if Munster's out and AJ's in the team, it's going to be Hunt. But if not, I'll have AJ as my 18th man.
Yeah, I've gone AJ as well, or Holmes, just depending on how it makes up.
I'd say AJ's probably a bit safer in the sense that, he probably won't, fingers crossed he won't, but Ponga is known to get a couple of nagging injuries. If he happened to get one, then...
He still get through this week too as well.
Yeah.
Ponga.
Yeah.
Let's get to New South Wales. I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Tedesco, I've actually... As much as I love him, I haven't picked Tuo. I'll get that out of the way early. Tupou, Turbo, Latrell, Fox. I have picked Luai, Cleary, Haas. I've picked Appy at 9 because Cook's disappeared down a rabbit hole. See what I did there? Paulo, starting prop. Frizzell, now with Angus out. Cam Murray, 12. Yo, 14. Yo, 13. My 14. Who's the best utility player in a game at the moment?
Matthew Burden.
Nico Hines. Can play anywhere. Get to him. Nick. Why wouldn't you pick Nico if Pappenhausen's not fit? Nico does the same job. He plays all of the spine. Finucane, Tavita Pengai, Paul Vaughan, and Burton is my 18th man. It's ahead of Gutho, actually. Johnny?
Yeah, I've gone Teddy.
You're allowed to bag me, by the way. You're very just nodding away.
I think that'll come at the end.
It's a very polite opinion show, yeah?
Yeah, I've got Teddy at fullback, obviously. I've got Tupu and Josh Adokar. I've gone Stephen Crichton because everyone that's a centre option tends to play left centre. He's the only natural right centre that we've got apart from Lomax. So I went Stephen Crichton. He's playing terrific footy as well. Turbo is his other centre partner. Luai and Cleary are in the halves. Haas, Cook. I've stayed with Cook. I think Appy would have given him a run, but just come back to first grade footy. Daniel Saifidi to start. Gone Frizzell, Ryan Madison, left edge for Crichton, and Jake Trbojevic. I just don't think you can put Jake on the edge. So he's either starting at lock or he's on my bench, and I've just started him. I've gone Matt Burton at 14. I think he can play 1 to 7 and even 13 if things get drastic.
Play 3 and 4 too if it's injured.
That's what I'm saying. He can feel every position.
It was a toss between him and Nico, and I just thought Nico's played a fair bit of dummy half too.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that was what tipped it for me.
My bench is Yo, Paulo, and Nathan Brown for a bit of punch and skill.
Okay. Well,
so I've gone pretty much... You're going to hear a lot of names here that are very similar. Tedesco, Tupu, Mitchell, Turbo, and Josh Adokar at my back 5. Luai, Cleary, Paulo, Haas, and Cook starting in the 9. I've gone with Tavita Pangai in 11. I've gone with Cam Murray at 12 and Isaiah Yo at 13. I'm going with Whiten as my 14, just as a bigger body who can play halves and back row if needed. Jake Trbojevic, Paul Vaughan, and Dale Finucane to round out my bench.
Yeah, I like it.
18th man would be either Walker or possibly Schuster. Just the fact that he can play in the back row as well.
Schuster was very close.
Is someone that you could consider to put in.
No Gutho, I guess, for most of us, but...
No Gutho and Pappenhausen you could slot in instead of Whiten if you really wanted to. Depends how you want to play it. Whether you want to play bigger bodies or you want to play someone that's going to come on and add a bit of X factor. So...
All right, well, Tedesco, Adokar, Mitchell, Trbojevic, Toto. I'm going to get the explanation for that one out of the way now. I was actually going to pick Tupou until I typed it in, but I thought, you know what? Have Toto's partner be Trbojevic, because the main concern for Toto is getting under that high ball. I think Turbo can cover him there, and then he can just play his natural game. So I think he's a good fit, not too dissimilar, I think, a role that Stephen Crichton would play for Toto at Penrith. Yep. So I've got him in there. My halves, Jack Whiten and Nathan Cleary. Again, I had Luai right up until I put it in. I just feel like with Whiten, in terms of big game situations, origin experience, Whiten can play that sort of a Luai role and mainly run the ball as long as Nathan Cleary's got full control of the side. That's the thing for me. As long as they get that set, and Whiten's the one running the ball, I think they'll be okay. Payne Haas, and I've got Safidi as my props. At hooker, I've got Damien Cook, usually turns up at origin level at least. 11 to 13, I've got 3 locks. I've got Cam Murray, Jake Trbojevic playing in the second row, and Isaiah Yo locking the scrum. And on the bench, I do have Pappenhausen. I was trying to look for a player for me with versatility. I didn't think of Nico Hines. I did the 0 tackle team list thing, and Nico Hines wasn't even on there, so
Central Coast boy. So
but on my bench as well, I've got Pangai Junior, Paulo, and Finucane. I'd have to say 18th man, probably Gutho.
So in reply to your question, Amy, our starting back row, mine is Frizzell and Murray, but I gave very, very serious thought to TPJ starting because I think he's been very destructive this year, and it could be one of those things where you pick him on the bench and you start him on a night because you wake up and feel like it. Johnny, your starting 11 and 12 were...
I went Frizzell and Madison.
Yep.
I think I love TPJ. I didn't pick him because I didn't think Freddie would pick him, but if he plays like he did against the Roosters, without a doubt, he's playing State of Origin.
Well, I quietly thought that TPJ was going to be my curveball, but I think we all had him. My starting second rows are Murray and Trbojevic. The main reason why TPJ is on the bench is because I think he can come on as either a prop, a lock, or a second rower. Yeah, it's just where you need to use him on the night. So off the bench for whoever's the most tired in the forward pack, really.
And final word, man.
Was, Tavita Pengai, and I had Murray in there as well. I was looking more to have Murray at 13, but I can't leave Yo out of the side. He's been tremendous for the last 12 months. So.
Yeah.
Last 7 years, really.
Yeah, but his form's just gone the extra level in the last.
He's everything you'd want in a lock. He can run a hole. He can link up with your middles. He can do everything.
Yeah, my concern with Jake actually was that he's just that half step slower than the rest. But since Tommy's come back, he's in a good team. He's looks like he's grown. Yeah. He's found that step again. For chill flow cool rooms, any numbers we should tone, or should just Google it? Okay. Boys, let's get into our match reviews. Director Tony will put it up on the screen. There you go. If you ever need a cool room for your weddings, bar mitzvahs, funerals, whatever else you do, Tone, Easter shows. Cowboys 36 defeated Knights 20. I believe the Knights only scored when it was 13 on 12.
13 on 11.
13 on 11.
Yeah. Yep.
Some stats, Barney, and then you can give us your first thoughts to lead us away.
Yeah, so 7 tries to 4 out of 7 conversions for the Cowboys, 2 out of 4 for the Knights. 80% completion, played 79%. 33 out of 41 sets for the Cowboys, 31 out of 39 for the Knights. 11 line breaks, played 4. 33 tackle busts, played 29. 5 offloads to the Cowboys, 15 to the Knights. 3 forced dropouts by Newcastle. 0 40-20s, 329 tackles, played 312. 2 ruck infringements from the Cowboys, 3 from Newcastle. 2 inside the 10 for the Cowboys, 1 for Newcastle. Cowboys conceded 6 penalties, Knights conceded 3, 11 errors apiece. 2 sin bins for the Cowboys. Wright made 43 tackles, Brayley made 45, Felt made 236 metres, and Jacob Saifidi made 167. Clifford missed 4 tackles, and Tomalolo missed 6, actually. Musgrove missed 4 and didn't make 1, so that was a good day out for him. Saifidi and Frizzell missed 4 each. Tuolangi with 145 Supercoach points, Holmes with 138, Felt with 101, and Fitzgibbon with 93. I thought this was actually an okay game of football. It wasn't too bad.
Really entertaining. We like fast-flowing football. We like plenty of points scored.
Yep.
Here it was.
Newcastle got brought back into the game a bit, I thought, after the Cows started on fire. With two tries there early in the game when the Cowboys had players in the bin. Newcastle sort of held the middle, but they never took control in the middle. They did enough to sort of keep the Cowboys from running over the top of them, but they didn't. They had the opportunity to get over the top of them, and the Saifidi boys were actually the Saifidi boys were actually quite good with the ball in hand. They actually ran with some enthusiasm, which I thought a few of the others might jump on the back, but they didn't really get into it too much. Just after half time, the Knights sort of got in control, got in front, but then they just fell apart in that last half an hour of the game.
Oh wow, that bad.
There was 5 tries through the that right hand side defence of the Knights. Tuolangi with a hat trick. He looks like a promising young player, actually.
Big, strong, fast.
Good feet. Yep. Both the wingers were pretty good. Holmes and Drinkwater, they were very important for the Cowboys. They set up all their attacking structures back through the middle, and
it looks like they're just getting their combination together now.
They're working quite well together. Yeah. Tomalolo was pretty good with the ball in the hands, but he had an off night in defence. Obviously, I think that high tackle rattled him a little bit, to be honest, and he wasn't sure exactly what he was meant to do after that. But he missed a few tackles. As I said, Saifidi boys had some good energy. Fitzgibbon and Frizzell were pretty good, but outside of that, it was just their outside backs. Their defence was horrendous at times.
I worked it out. Fitzgibbon's a centre in a second row's body. Like he wants to play broken field, like trying to put people running off him through holes, and he's He's actually okay at it. I'll give him that. But he was fine. But the Newcastle edges are embarrassing. Like,
if they didn't fall apart, they're a good chance in this game. But
but like they just gave up soft tries, soft points. Tuolangi owned them early. Val we've talked for a month how Val's getting better and better, and put him to shame. There's just blokes in this team that wouldn't be playing first grade in probably any other team out wide.
Most of them.
Kurt Mann was all at sea at fullback. He was
Didn't he have an absolute shocker?
Which he got thrown in the last minute. So
and that try that he just absolutely gave him over on. It
was
basically passed it to the bloke who scored the try.
Yeah, not pretty. Johnny, what do you think of the game?
There's a lot you could say wrong about the Knights at the minute, but I'll focus on the Cowboys because their resurgence has been really good considering where they were at the start of the year. Like you said, Val Holmes, he's looking like that premier fullback that they thought they signed when they got him back from the Jets, New York Jets. The support cast, Scotty Drinkwater, he's been sensational the past couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. His combination, especially with Reece Robson out of dummy half, playing off their forwards and getting them up the field has been really good. Their edges in Talangi and Felt have been really strong, helping those forwards get back up over the advantage line and keep them rolling through. So they've been really strong. Toddy Payton looks like he's starting to get the making of a side that he envisioned when he went there as well. So, I mean, he's starting to get this because his stamp at the Warriors was that discipline and just the getting people into, I guess, teams into shape. And it's taken him 10 weeks, but I think he's probably got as good as he's going to get out of his team, and they're going to beat a lot of teams. They're going to play. They're to me, they're sort of Warriors level now. Yeah. Without the X factors Warriors still have up their sleeve.
Well, we'll find out this week.
Exactly.
Yeah, they do look like they're a few players short of really challenging those top six sides, but he's got the makings of a really good team there. He's got Dunn and the other back edge. Is it right? He's got those guys playing well on the edge as well. Like they're a good side, and all the bad habits that they developed over the past couple of years, it's going to take some time for Payton to iron them out of that side, and he looks like he's starting to do that now, right at the good time of the season to get them maybe into the finals.
Yeah, Newcastle, it seemed like when the two players went off for the Cowboys, they thought, right, this is our chance to get in everything we can, but then after that we're done. Because once the Cowboys were back to 13 players, Newcastle just sort of backed off straight away. It seemed like, all right, now we've had our piece. Instead of trying to kick on with that momentum, it just stopped as soon as the North Queensland Cowboys got back to 13 players, and that's really worrying because I'd say there are at least probably 13 other sides in the competition where as soon as those players come back on, they at least try to keep that momentum going for at least 5 minutes before it unravels for whatever reason. But yeah, Newcastle just straight off other than that little period. And I'd have to say Tuolangi, the 3 tries looks like an absolute gun. He'd come close to getting my 3 points this week, and as a winger, like that's hard to do, but he's an absolute gun. So I have to agree with Johnny. I wouldn't necessarily have him in there, but if you picked him to play for Queensland, he's definitely in form. I also like, and I have to apologise for forgetting his name, but the young bloke on debut scoring at the end of the game and all the boys getting around him. Cole Felt shouting in his face. It's just good to see all the boys get around him, and they had his family up in the crowd, and I think they were all wearing shirts with his face on it. So that's probably something nice in a world of rugby league at the moment that's shrouded in peanuts.
The only bloke we haven't mentioned is Reece Robson. He's playing really good footy.
He's getting
up the last couple of weeks.
The only thing, only because I played him into a draft Supercoach just as a one-off, but that he just came off the field with 25 to go and didn't come back on. They just sort of trust Granville as their closer.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not asking this in terms of, because I don't think he'll play for either side, but is he Queensland?
Yeah.
Yeah, he could get in that 21.
Drinkwater?
Robson. Yeah, in that 18 to 21. He's certainly playing good enough.
Yeah, they've got 2 pretty good hookers there.
Yeah,
they'll carry a third.
Well, if Grant's out.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I'd rather him coming off the bench than Reid Marnie.
Okay.
If that's the way you want to go. His running game at dummy half has been so good for the Cowboys.
We didn't really analyse our teams. What I don't like is the idea that Harry has to come off the bench now.
Yeah.
He's good. Just let the bloke play. Let him play hook. He did it last year.
I only picked it that way just because Harry Grant's barely had a game in the last month.
And I understand that as well, yeah. I think we've said all we can about this game. Cowboys are on the up and Newcastle have serious issues. Now their inquiry there, they might be looking for a new coach in the near future.
The Knights?
Yeah.
If not, then...
Yeah. I'm saying 3 to Val, 2 to Tuolangi, 1 Drinkwater. Any
I'm happy with that.
I had Tuolungi with 3.
Same,
I had Drinkwater with 2, and I had Val with 1. But
Pretty much
I had all the
identical.
same 3 players.
All right, go. We'll go 3 to Alungi with his hat trick. 2 to, you said 2 Drinkwater, did you?
I did.
1 to Val?
Yep.
All right, I'm happy with that. That's fine. Let's get to Friday night, 6 o'clock game. Warriors 30, Tigers 26. Barney?
6 tries to 4, 3 out of 6 conversions, played 3 out of 4.
Shut up, Ollie.
I was just watching your face as you read that out.
2 out of 2 penalties from the Tigers. 81% completion, played 78%. 29 out of 36 sets, played 32 out of 41. 6 line breaks to 4. 22 tackle busts for the Warriors, 39 for the Tigers. 10 offloads, played 11. 2 forced dropouts by the Tigers. 356 tackles for the Warriors, 341 for the West Tigers. 3 ruck infringements, played 2. 1 inside the 10 by the Tigers. 5 penalties conceded by the Warriors and 1 by the Tigers. 10 errors to the Warriors and 13 to the Tigers. And 2 sin bins to the Warriors. Egan made 52 tackles, Twal with 37. RTS with 272 metres and Laurie with 216. Nicarima missed 9 tackles and made 16. Walsh missed 4 and made 3. Brooks and Little both missed 4 tackles each. Walsh with 129 Supercoach points. Garner with 100 and RTS with 94.
Oh, you're looking at me?
Want me to keep going? We generally swap it around. I can just keep going if you want.
I'll leave the Tigers talk to you. I like watching the Warriors.
Yeah.
Mainly selfishly because Supercoach Regions are brought in Reece Walsh. I was trying to figure out how they would get that to work, and I think they've figured it out.
Is he your second fullback or your top fullback?
No, I've got him and Turbo at the minute.
Okay.
Yeah. He was my main one for a second. But, they've kind of figured it out there. Where I thought they'd actually keep RTS at fullback, but then when they have the ball, Reece Walsh kind of steps in to that number 6 role, and then in defence, RTS pushes up and they'll protect Walsh and kind of help that with his education, because what they're saying to groom him for the fullback spot next year. But, I mean, just as long as he has the ball, things happen for him.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, look, there will be a drop-off at some point. That's what happens with young kids. They'll come on, but he's shown everything that you want at this stage of his career. He's moved over from Brisbane. He's kind of just slotted into that fullback spot and just gone, I know I've got confidence in myself. I know my upbringing in footy has been good. He seems like a student of the game. He just seems like one of those kids that's just obsessed with footy, and it comes across in his game when he's out there, and he's got no fear at all, no matter what they throw at him, and he just seems to find a way through defences, and it's really fun to watch.
I'll go next. Look, it's a typical story of the Tigers. I would argue they're probably the better team for, if not 50 minutes, 45. I think the forwards still doing their job. They're not really letting anyone down. They're not. I still like Joffre at lock. They're doing okay.
Garner was pretty good.
Garner's for the first 20 minutes, I felt like a genius because I said that the Warriors' edges were the problem, and Garner tore them apart. It looked great. The issues we have, the first issue we had was RTS was running at Joey Leilua the whole night, so that was a major issue for everyone because one can't tackle and one's really good.
Didn't have fun too.
But when push came to shove, there's 2 things. When you're 13 on 12 for 20 minutes and you convert 2 penalty shots, that's I don't know if that's an indication of your mindset or an indication of what's going on, but you can't afford to go 20 minutes and not put at least 6 or 8 points on.
They conceded 2 tries in that time as well.
Yeah, and they conceded 2, which is not since the Titans have we seen such an embarrassment. To not, I understood the first one, but to not take the tap on the second one was preposterous. And even then to fight back. The difference is, the thing is, in an arm wrestle, the difference is the other team had 2 game-winning players, and they won the game. RTS and Walsh. Explosive of the mark. He's tremendous. Everything you just said is great. Thinks about the game, picks out the game. Look, the issue of the Tigers' defence is they don't slide, but they don't push up, so they just stand there. So you end up with overlaps and people not knowing where they're supposed to be. Either that, or there's no communication, and Nofa just is an idiot.
Well, they sort of push up, but then they don't. They're too compact, and then they don't slide.
So they come up compact, and then I think if you went back through every Tigers game this year, there's a rainbow ball that they walk in untouched on the side. It would be every Tigers game.
If this makes sense, their defence is like the Bulldogs' attack. It's just boring, and you can't wrap your head around it at all.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work.
Like I said a couple of weeks ago, it's 70% of a defence. It's not, and it's not like the forwards miss a great deal of tackles, but there's issues there that still need to find out. I don't know if it's communication. BJ's gone again this week. We'll see what that does. someone like Gump might be better to explain to work out how you might fix that. I guess that's all I got to say, really. I can't imagine the Dewey thing lasts too much longer because you cannot have a game where your best player touches the ball like 4 times.
Yeah.
That right edge of the Tigers is an absolute mystery. You had Luciano and Knopf playing on the left edge.
Yeah.
And they kind of were like, they were effective, but they weren't like, we're getting the best out of you. They shift to the right, and now they're forcing their way down the left.
Yeah.
To, Garner, who scored 2, but, he's kind of ran through gaps.
Yeah.
And they got their outside backs on that left edge who I don't really want touching the ball all too often.
But then even, I watched it back today, but even, the highlights again today, even the very last play of the game, there's a 5-on-1 overlap, and Garner gets the ball in the last play on the left wing with a 4-on-1 overlap, and he goes, "Oh, well, I'm not going to score," and it goes back the other way. There's just got to be. I don't know the structures. I think obviously next year I think it'll help some of the people coming in, but that's next year. For now, I don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know if it's a communication thing. But there's serious issues, and they're going to beat some teams like the Dragons this week, but they're not going to do much more than that. And that's all I'm going to say about them, really.
In saying all that, they could have still won the game.
They probably should have.
that last play, if Dewey doesn't touches it, Laurie goes over, and they're at least going to go on a point.
Yeah.
So,
Bun?
Yeah, it was a pretty exciting game at times, bit of back and forth there, and some pretty good attacking football in different parts of the game. The forward battle was really good, I thought. I thought the Tigers actually won that battle too in the middle. But there was just too many errors out wide for the Tigers. And when the Warriors got their chances, they took most of them. You know what I mean? When they made the half breaks, they generally made it count. And if they didn't, they were down the other end and making the Tigers work out of their end. So,
but actually, I forgot to mention earlier, explosive pace. Warriors actually, I mentioned 2 of them, but even their halves have it too. Nick Arima gets half a gap and he's gone.
Yep.
And that's just, and Brooks sort of had it, but he's not the same
to
thing.
come back. Yeah, but they took their chances out wide. As I said, the RTS and the kid, they were just if you could get them together for 2 or 3 years, who knows what those blokes would do. I'd even like to see RTS come into the centres and then start working, back in that middle a little bit more with Walsh. That'd be brilliant.
I think if he was staying, that should be the logical.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking a few weeks ago after the Melbourne game how it was like, well, why are the Warriors doing this? Even though Reece Walsh had a really good game, it's just Melbourne outclassed him. And I sort of think in hindsight, that's what we were bagging him more for, due to the fact that they did lose by about 20 points, but it was against a side like Melbourne. I'm actually starting to buy into this a little bit. I like what RTS is able to do out on the edge. Reece Walsh is just amazing at fullback. Now, I'm not saying he's a better fullback than RTS, but the way it's currently working is good, especially because it seems like, and I've heard rumblings of this, that Ken Mamalo might be getting a release because he wants to go back to New Zealand.
Okay.
I take it if he wants to go back to New Zealand, well, he's not going to any other club in the NRL, so maybe he might try his hand at rugby. He
went home last. Was he one of the guys that went home last?
Yeah, I believe he would have been. He was definitely against staying
Flower Power as a pot plant.
Well, no, he might go to the Blues next year, and RTS will turn up and go, "Oh shit!" I'm just joking.
But as Johnny said with Walsh, he's just fearless. He made a couple of mistakes, and they weren't pretty mistakes either. But he just kept coming. He kept throwing that ball. And,
even that last try where he got mowed down, he still had the wherewithal to put it on the chest out wide. So.
Yeah.
Garner was the Tigers' best easily, I thought. Brooks was fairly good, but outside backs weren't that good. Egan and Harris were the best forwards for the Warriors. Wade Egan's actually really starting to stamp his name in the hooker position there at the Warriors.
His form has gone up past couple of weeks. I think the threat of Cody taking his spot while Welsh comes off the bench has kind of given him a kick. He's always had the talent. It's just he's never really shown it.
Well, at Penrith for a while, I think he had Peter Wallace in front of him for the last couple of years, and then they wouldn't persist with him, and he got obviously injured. He did get injured, but he was obviously
he was going to be the starting one,
and he was better than Sione Katoa, but they kept sort of swapping him week in, week out once Egan came back. So he didn't really have that faith.
Sione Katoa,
well, he didn't have that faith in him, right, from Penrith. So it seems like if you're a second string anything at Penrith and you go elsewhere, you're probably going to be a star. It's just a stacked roster.
There's pretty much a handful of those in every game you watch. I was watching over
Laurie,
the weekend.
Aikens,
There's probably about half a dozen in every NRL game that has come through some sort of Panthers system that's playing first grade now and doing it well. So
they got 4,000 kids.
That's true.
It doesn't hurt.
Plus everything.
They've also got kids out in the country.
Yeah, plus everything west of the Blue Mountains.
Jack Murchie was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
One of his better efforts for the year. Walsh and RTS, we've all already said they were great. The halves are pretty good, but The Warriors' front row was actually really poor in this game. They were extremely poor considering what they've put out for the rest of the year, but their bench made up for it. The blokes that came off the bench covered them well. So I had Reece Walsh with 3 points. I had Tohu Harris with 2, and then I tossed up with RTS or Garner for the 1.
I went Walsh, RTS, and then either Garner or Harris for 1.
Exactly the same.
I went Welsh, RTS, Garner.
I'm with you. Yep, let's go with that.
Done.
We're an hour into our first live stream. Do you want to have a quick break, boys, or are you right to play on?
Can we just skip the next game, though?
No, we want to talk about this. Won't take long. We'll do this game.
It won't take long at all.
Well, I've pretty much just got a bit of a story to tell about this one because I was at the races, and when I came out of the races, one of my mates checked their phone and they just started laughing, and they were like, the Titans only beat the Bulldogs by 10 points, and I've never before been berated and had the piss taken out of me so much because my team's won. It was because we won by 10 points. But I was a bit tipsy by then and saw that AJ scored the try to win the game. And walking back to the hotel from Rose Hill, I was chanting.
You skipped
AJ.
the worst game of the weekend, mate.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Sharks.
Dragons, the next one, and then
You're
it
still
was
pissed.
Titans Dogs.
I forgot.
So we're going from the worst. We'll go to the worst game first, and then we'll get to the second worst game after
all right.
that.
So the Sharks. All right. This is do the stats, and then we'll.
I'm glad I forgot that game and not an actual good game.
Oh, fuck, I would forget it too. Don't worry about it.
It won't spend long.
2 tries apiece, 2 out of 2 conversions for the Sharks, 0 out of 2 conversions for the Dragons, 1 out of 3 attempts for field goal for the Sharks, and 0 out of 2 for the Dragons. 2 out of 2 penalty goals, 79% completion, played 78. 38 out of 48 sets, played 35 out of 45. 4 line breaks, played 2. 36 tackle busts apiece. 8 offloads, played 6. 3 forced dropouts for the Sharks and 2 for the Dragons. 0 40-20s. 341 tackles by the Sharks and 426 by the Dragons. 2 ruck infringements, played 3. 5 penalties conceded to 4. 11 errors to 13. 2 bins by the Sharks and 1 by the Dragons. Tolman made 49 tackles. McCulloch with 57. Connor Tracy with 180 metres and Vaughan with 183. Moylan missed 5 tackles. Rudolph, Townsend and Chambers missed 4. The young winger or centre, Monet, missed 7 and made 19. Hunt missed 6 tackles. Kennedy got 100 Supercoach points. Josh Kerr was 76 and Moylan was 69. This was easily the worst game of the year, possibly the last decade.
This was the worst game in the last 2 years that didn't have the Bulldogs in it. And this might have been worse than anything than that.
I'm glad they won, obviously, but they absolutely didn't deserve to win. They had the opportunities to win earlier in the game and win easily, and if they could pass and catch the football, they might have been half a chance, but this was just disgraceful. This was a reserve grade team playing half of a reserve grade team. This was a horrible game of football to watch, and yeah, I sat through it. The only time I got enjoyment was when he actually kicked the field goal after kicking 2 straight into a bloke that was standing in front of him beforehand. The Dragons should have won this game. They were the better team for pretty much the whole game. The Sharks were horrible, and with the Dragons only having half a team, they deserved to win this game. Most of their points came with Sharks players in the bin, but they could have scored plenty other times. Tolman, Nakora and Graham weren't bad. Kennedy was easily the best. Trindle was only on for 18 minutes, but he made a difference to the Sharks team. He actually picked up their attack there for that 18 minutes that he was on the field. Laurie and Vaughan were outstanding, and McCulloch, they were really strong. They held the Dragons' middle together. Max Vigai looks like a pretty good player out there on the wing. He looks like he's got some
or something. Another name for us he made up to nice.
He looks pretty good. Bird busted his ass in this game, put everything out there. Didn't get the chockies, but he had a pretty good game. Pereira was really good with the ball in his hand. He made about 7 or 8 tackle busts, I think, at one point, but his defence has got a little bit to ask about. I'll leave the points till the end. Anybody else?
Ollie, do you want to tell us why you possibly think the Dragons can finish top 4? What the hell?
Sorry? Top 4. Did you not just see my ladder predictions?
How can you watch this game?
Games I won at the start of the year. It'll be enough to keep them around 11th to 12th. But the thing is, for me, they do have the pieces there, and it can work. I still think it can work with the players they got there. As you were saying, like young Figai coming through, looks like a talent. They were the better game against the Sharks here. The Sharks were very poor, as were the Dragons. also got to take into account a bit as well that the Dragons were playing with a weak side. So a full-strength Dragon side probably wins that one, I'd say by about 12. Chad Townsend kicked a field goal at the end, and that's what won the Sharks the game, literally. And I think...
And he's dropped in, so he should have been.
Well, I was going to say, you drop him like maybe 2 weeks ago, like a few weeks before that, but they
that
pick the
was
game
like
where he
the
wins the
epitome of a
game.
bloke not wanting to be there. I think he had 6 handling errors, 4 missed tackles.
He's been doing it for the last 4 weeks. I've been saying it ever since he signed for the Cowboys. He's been atrocious.
Hey, he's a Newtown Jets fan, wants to play at Henson
He's a
Park.
Cowboy. You can go fuck off and go to the Cowboys.
Well, I feel like once the Cowboys get this deal done, then they'll turn to Townsend and we'll start hearing about that. I think they want to get one in first and then the other.
Given that he's not here this week, I think Sharks might start just going, you know what, go.
Yeah. So they should. Yeah. They've got Trindle there. They've got Johnson, Moylan. They've got enough to work with.
Johnny, anything anyway?
The two positives, like you said, with Paul Vaughan and Will Kennedy, they were good. I think Paul Vaughan put his hand up and said, remember me for Origin with that coming around.
He's been good all year.
I think he's been brilliant, especially with what's been around him.
Yeah. He was considered for me, yeah.
I have him easy in front of the Saifidi. And
Daniel Safidi
on Clemmer.
Daniel Safidi individually, I'd argue, has still been okay, just not at his best.
Yeah. His halves mix and match never hasn't helped. But Will Kennedy's saved you guys a couple $100K for next year. He's cemented himself as that number one, stopped you from going on the market. So they were good. Adam Tolman, 71 minutes, a million tackles.
Just does his job.
Yeah, I think every Dogs fan could have told you exactly what he would have given you when he came to the Sharks.
And done it for a long time, hasn't he?
It was also good to see Bubba Kennedy have a good game because he started the season really well and we thought, here we go, this is someone who could save Cronulla's season or maybe help them scrape into the 8 once again, which I don't think he will. But then he dropped off a bit and I was worried, oh no, this will be his season done. He won't be able to regain that form. It was sort of when John Morris left and then maybe come back next year, but it's good to see him have a good game.
Well, even with the
Hopefully
Sharks dropping off,
gets him back.
I think he's only had one poor game all year, and that was last week, I think, or the week before.
I'd still argue he's probably...
But he had no ball and...
Last question before we move on from this game. Cody Ramsey, fullback, the fact they're trying to get rid of Dufty, did you see anything made you think that's the right call at all?
No, well, apparently they're trying to get Hines right, and I'd argue, obviously we haven't seen as much of Hines as we have as Dufty, but I wouldn't necessarily say Nicho Hines is a sure thing to be a better player than Dufty in the long run. It's looking like it, but I mean, I certainly wouldn't give Matt Dufty the disrespect that he's reported.
If you put Matt Dufty into Melbourne, it'd be pretty bloody good.
Cody Ramsey would be better off putting 20 kilos on and being a fast back rower and just running straight at blokes because he doesn't have much.
Luke Garner, but he's got no shoulders. He's like...
If you put on 20 kilos, it'd be a good winger.
Yeah, that's true. Touche. What more we can add there? So I had the big mix of, I just had Kennedy, McCulloch, Vaughan, and actually I thought Moylan was all right. And you mentioned Tolman in a big pot of points, but I don't care. Or we can just give all 6 points to Mo Fotuaika in the next game.
Well, I'd personally have...
Done. All right, 6 to Mo.
I had Kennedy, Blake Laurie, and either Hunt or Josh Kerr for the single point.
McCulloch, I think it was 60 tackles, 58 tackles. But yeah, anyway.
Blake Laurie had massive metres and tackles as well. I think he made 40 odd tackles
are a good front row partnership.
200 plus metres.
Everything around him just kind of falls apart. I feel bad for Josh Kerr. He's a front rower playing on the edges. He gets burned every week, but doesn't stop him doing his job for 80 minutes. So
what were you saying for you? So 3, 2, 1, throw
Kennedy,
it out there.
Laurie, and Kerr.
No strong opinions. Kennedy 3 and the rest.
Okay,
well, I personally had...
Did I just ask you?
Huh?
What?
This is my podcast anyway.
Come on, talk, people.
Kennedy, Vaughan, and then probably McCulloch.
Laurie was better than Vaughan.
Okay, let's go Kennedy, Vaughan, and then Laurie. No, Kennedy, Laurie, and Vaughan.
Sure.
3, 2, 1. And if you want to hit mute for a second, put up that lovely symbol tone. We'll have a quick 4-minute break and be back in a sec. Yeah, there we're back. We got the sound going. You got it now, too?
Kicking off again.
Oops. All right, we're back. Yeah.
Very good. Titans versus
It
Dogs.
took me an hour to stuff this up. How
This game, we can probably just leave it on mute if you
All
like.
right. Well, Titans 30, Bulldogs 20, everyone. Barney's telling us stats.
5 tries to 4, 5 out of 5 conversions, 2 out of 4. For the Dogs, 85% completion, played 77%. 33 out of 39 sets, played 33 out of 43. 6 out of 6 tackle line breaks. 26 tackle busts, played 25. 14 offloads for the Titans, 12 for the Dogs. 1 forced dropout for the Titans. 352 tackles, played 358. 6 ruck infringements to 1. 1 inside the 10 for the Bulldogs. 4 penalties conceded from each team. 10 errors apiece. And 1 sin bin each. Rain made 42 tackles. Katoa with 33. Philip Sammy with 260 metres. And Dallin with 211 metres. Kelly missed 4 tackles and made 9. AJ missed 2 and made 0. Katoa missed 5 tackles. Kotrick with 105, Supercoach. Mo Fotuaika with 102. Sammy with 93. And then Thompson with 92 for the Bulldogs.
This was glorious front row destruction from young Mo Fotuaika. In my opinion, the best prop performance of the year. Everyone reminded me of Fisher Harris just before, and that's probably right too. But for me, the best of the year, he hoisted the Titans onto his back and he said, follow me, boys. I don't know how he's been starting the year. I've said it for weeks. He bent the line every time he ran. He hit people every time he tackled. He's the match-winning try at the end was just amazing. He did only have to run over a pot plant, but it was just beautiful to watch in action. I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and he can have all 6 points this week. That's all I have to say.
Oh, Thompson should get one.
Drag
pot plants with him.
Actually, I do want to say about another prop in that if Luke Thompson was any other club, we would be talking about him as the best prop in the game because he's a superstar. It's gone unnoticed. I hope for his sake that they really can turn around next year. But he dragged just as many people. We have more, if not, than Mo did with him. Epic clash. For the shit game it was, I enjoyed that clash alone. So therefore, I enjoyed the game. And Tino back to lock it, a little bit of broken field here and there was great, and it's what we've been calling for all year, and it's where he should be. He can apparently play his crash plays from there. He can get a little bit of he can get those sort of 25-metre breaks where he can score a bit further out with loose play or scrambled markers and that sort of thing. And I have no idea why Holbrook hasn't been doing it, but I hope he keeps doing it. That's all I've got to say, because everyone else in this field was a waste of space.
Well, with Luke Thompson, I'm pretty sure he's gotten at least 1 point every week in the Dag Yams. He's been playing really good, but as you mentioned, like if he was playing for a better club, probably would have been mentioned a lot more. I'd say if the Titans named the lineup that they have for the majority of the year in terms of the forwards, like Mo off the bench and Tino playing at prop, I'd argue Luke Thompson probably could have nearly dragged the Bulldogs to a win if it wasn't for that and wasn't for Mo's dominance. From what I saw in the Fox Mini as well, it looked like at least an attack AJ was back to some semblance of past form, but the thing is for me, his 2 best games this year, how it looked, were against the Bulldogs and the Broncos in that loss. So what can that really tell you in a team that should be playing a lot better against those 2 clubs? As I said in my predicted ladder before, the Titans will limp into the 8. That's how I've got them going at the moment.
Well, if they do this, if they set up this way and have Fafita coming back, then they're going to beat a few teams, is all I say. I do want to actually mention a couple others. Tanner Boyd, probably his best game. I thought he was, well, at least better than Ash Taylor. But just, he was very serviceable as a 5'8", but that it helps when you're following your forwards. But the Titans' edges are still shit. That got showed by Kotrick put him. Kotrick's a good player, but he just had time to do what he wanted. A lot of their points came along that right side, left side defence, up the Bulldogs' right.
Kelly again.
Well, the thing is, he's at least last year and the past couple of years, we haven't mentioned him much, but he's been like really good for the Titans.
He's really strong in attack, man, but in his defence he gets lost. I mentioned it last week, and I'm probably sure I'll mention it for the rest of the season.
Well, that's the thing with the Titans' backs. They've proven in the past that they're not as bad as the way they're playing. It's almost as if they're thinking, well, we've got this massive forward pack now, we don't have to do as much, but if they keep playing the way they have been, especially the last few weeks of 2020, because I would argue those last 5 wins, a lot of that came off the back of those back 5 playing really well. like they could create something special, but they're just not showing up the way they used to. And again, I know they're playing through the middle a lot more, the Titans, but they're still getting chances out there, and they're just not doing much anymore.
That was a really strong forward clash, as you mentioned. The big names stepped up with Mo, Tino and Thompson. They were all tremendous. That first try from the Titans was quite nice, slick down that left-hand side, and it had Sammy and Kelly involved in it, and they kicked back for AJ. It was a very nice try. I thought the Dallin try should have been given, to be honest, that obstruction play. It happened so far off the ball. That's one thing that does irk me with that obstruction play. You pick the wrong shoulder, but when the bloke's 15 metres away, realistically, what's it matter? After that, the Dogs pulled Sammy and Kelly apart down that side, as you mentioned. That's where a lot of their forward momentum came from, and a lot of their points. There was a poor kick chase, which AJ just jumped and ran straight through the guts, and which led directly to a try as well. So it sort of comes down to that Dogs' effort and their sloppy defence in the middle. They did enough to win this game. They just don't have that knockout punch in them, and they probably could have won this game, but they can't turn it into points.
There's a bit of what you'd expect from both sides. The Titans, they've got points, but they're very weak at the back. And the Dogs will keep trying. So as soon as you open the door for them, they're gonna put some points on you, because they will kind of wheel their way over the line. But even how bad they've been, there were a few positives there for the Dogs. I think Aaron Shoup in the centres, I think on debut was really strong for a 19-year-old. In defence, he had a few strong carries coming out, and he's definitely held his own. I think strong enough to at least get a sustained period in first grade before they look elsewhere. Yeah,
the other positive is Katoa's not in the team this week. That's a great positive.
Ironically, I think the past 2 weeks has been Sione's best 2 games, which don't say anything at all, because watching him at
Penrith, I really like Tapine as well, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, he comes back. But Kotrick, I think is how he wants to be pronounced. He looked like that origin winger that we saw at the Raiders a couple of years ago. I mean, he's mentioned Thompson, but also Dallin. I think he's been chopping and changing from that 1 to 5, and he's every single week that's changed. But
he puts in effort every week, though.
That's the minimum that you'll get from Dallin. And he'll run hard and he'll make your meters from the back, which is at least the minimum that you want. He's a bit scratchy in that final third, linking up with his outside men and kind of helping his halves out a little bit with that playmaking. But he runs hard and he'll punch through a gap, and he's wheeled his way over the line a few times the past couple of weeks, even though, as you said, this week, he was denied by the video ref.
The Gazmeister from PCTC is in the house for the stream, which reminds me we've got to talk about it at some point. We'll do that in the preview show. Thanks, Gaz. Welcome aboard. Anything else to add from this game?
Really?
Not really.
We get to the points, I think.
3 to Mo, 2 to Thompson, 1 to either Tino, AJ or Kotrick. So
I had 3 to Mo, 2 to Kotrick and 1 to Thompson.
3 to Mo, and any combination of what you just said makes sense.
Mo gets all 12 from this game and the previous game.
Well, I'd personally, just from the highlights I saw, AJ looked really good. I'm not sure how much the highlights maybe up that, but maybe 1.
It was a highlights performance.
Yeah, it was a highlights performance.
Maybe 1, I don't know. Just to do what the tiebreaker feels.
Fotuaika, Kotrick, Thompson. Happy with that?
Yep.
Sure. Okay, let's move on. Brisbane 34, knocked over Roosters 16. Barney?
3 tries to 6, 1 out of 3 conversions for the Roosters, 5 out of 6 for the Broncos, and 1 out of 1 penalty goals for the Roosters. 74% completion for the Roosters and 93% for the Broncos. That's obviously when they play their best. It's when any team plays their best, if you can complete like that. 25 out of 34 sets played, 39 out of 42. 7 line breaks for the Roosters, 3 to the Broncos. 37 tackle busts played, 32. 6 offloads to 12. 2 forced dropouts by the Broncos. 1 40-20 from the Broncos. 338 tackles by the Roosters to 290 from the Broncos. 1 ruck infringement given away by the Roosters, 4 given away by the Broncos. 2 inside the 10 played 1. 10 penalties conceded by the Roosters and 5 by the Broncos. 12 errors to 8, 2 sin bins from each team. Marsky made 35 tackles, Turpin with 42. Tedesco with 165 metres and David Mead with 232. Walker missed 4 tackles. Tupanua and Marsky missed 6 apiece. And Copley made 6, missed 6. And Kelly coming back made 18 tackles but missed 5. Tavita Pangai Jr. with 93 Supercoach points. Tedesco with 97. And Satili Tupanua with 90.
You can go first, Oli. Albert Kelly, number 1 fan club.
After that, I thought, okay, he's going to come back, put in a solid effort. That's what I've been saying.
Did I mention I tipped the draw in the other game?
No, the Sharks dragged.
You ended up saying Sharks the 13 plus.
No, I
didn't. You?
No, I tipped the draw.
Sorry.
He tipped the draw.
You tipped the draw, but then afterwards you said Sharks would win.
No, I just realised you were about to
time.
blow your trumpet and I forgot to play mine. So
Yeah, but you tipped a draw in general. You never said after 80 minutes and then the Sharks win.
I'm still right.
But
okay,
anyway.
go.
Yeah, I mean, no, but I honestly thought he'd come in at least give that consistent effort that I've been going on about all year, and he did. But I'd argue he was a bit better than that. Shocking start to the game, but after kicking that 40-20, like he just pretty much said, I'm going to be really in control here. Like it was sort of as if he was like, I need this. I need to prove myself again, and I hope he can keep that up for at least the rest of the year. It's going to be iconic, that ear gear he had on. I know he's recently had ear surgery, but even once that's healed, keep it on. That can be his new look. But yeah, no, he was just really good, and honestly, it was just sort of a feel-good story seeing him come back to rugby league after all that time out and got on him. Thought David Mead was really good as well, someone who, if you play him in his position, is probably going to play all right. I don't know why they were playing him in the centres for that period there, and that they obviously dropped him down to win Manly, but he's obviously proven when you play him on the wing, he's going to be a suitable winger. He
just had a month where he got no ball like that after the first
and then they dropped him and
so I thought those guys were good. TPJ as well, for me, 3 points. He just there's a reason why he's in all of our Origin teams, and he's just having a blinder of a year, and I think he can get up to that next level in State of Origin, and I'm looking forward to that.
It's good to see Albert Kelly paving the way for Chris Sando's return. John, what do you make of the game?
The entertainment factor was obviously Radley versus TPJ, and it was a bit weird that I thought they targeted TPJ, because he's one that if you just leave him alone, he's going to coast through the game. You've seen it throughout his career where he can just kind of just glide through, and he just kind of does what he needs to, and that's it. But them giving him a lot of attention seemed to stoke a bit of a fire up him, and he's just like, all right, I'm taking this on. And he just gave Paul Sam Walker an absolute torrid day out on that edge, and he kind of won that battle with Radley and a few of those other forwards on that right edge for the Roosters' defence. He tore them absolutely apart. He was brilliant. But also I thought someone that has kind of found himself on the edges a little bit, and I'm not quite sure why, was John Asiata. He came on, and a couple of years back, Leilani Latu for the Panthers, he was kind of like a ball-playing forward where everyone kind of was able to bounce off him. He'd carry it forward, but he'd also get that second phase play for his halves, and that's exactly what Asiata does. He came on, I thought he really helped nail the Roosters in their in their end, and he just kind of helped put them away a little bit. So I thought he was terrific, and I hope the Panthers bring him back home.
Fair enough. Barn?
I think inconsistencies hurt Asiata a bit, especially the different parts of his career, but he was strong in this one. As you mentioned, TPJ terrorised Sam Walker, and I don't think that if they did leave him alone, I don't think it was going to stop him in this one. I'm pretty sure he was geared up to go from the very start, just by that first try. The way that he ran straight over Sam Walker, had another two blokes grab him, and then he pops that offload where they scored that first try. That was really good work to do that.
To your point, though, it's the most Walker's been owned since he's come in the NRL.
That was the one. That was the one that they were saying was coming.
Yeah.
And the worst part was it confused his outside men too, because if you look at the next try, you see Manu looking in, going, I need to cover him, and then they got around him and scored on the outside of him as well. So it sort of threw their defence out a bit there. Teddy and Manu actually had to take over as playmakers for a big part of this game, because Walker did go missing after being targeted so much early in this game. And they got the Roosters back in front just before half-time, and then a Walker error led directly to the Broncos coming back with that big rainbow ball that Mead just ran the length of the field and scored. So, and that was a massive turning point in this game. Once the Broncos hit the front just before half-time, they came in with their tails up, and they didn't let up in the second half. They were super strong in that second half, and they gave the Roosters absolutely nothing. They just continued up through the middle. The Roosters couldn't control their forward pack at points in that second half. Lodge and Haas were just making massive inroads through the middle.
Yeah, I think that's more a credit to Brisbane taking him out of their game. I know we talk about how the forward pack took Walker out of the game, but also the Roosters forward pack, and it's a strong forward pack too. So I guess it's pretty much Brisbane's forward pack playing to their potential, because they're usually up there every week, obviously, but I mean, against one of the better sides in the competition. Yeah.
But that 1-2 punch, they were just one after another, and then either the hooker would jump out or they'd spread it wide and they'd start making some good meters. It was, there was spectacular in that back half for the second half for the Broncos. As you mentioned, Kelly was really good in his return. I was really impressed with the way he managed the game. His kicking game was brilliant. I think he kicked over 300 and something metres.
I remember you saying that at the start of the year when he first signed. I think you said that's his biggest asset, that he's got a really good, versatile kicking game.
And that's exactly what the Broncos need. They need to be playing off the back of field position. They've got the big guys, and if they don't make the mistakes, they can pin teams down in their end, and they can make them work to get back down the other end. And they did everything they needed to in this game, and I don't think there was many players out there that missed their job. Satilli and Angus were very good. They did what they do.
I think Angus has absolutely found origin form, and unfortunately he's going to be cooling his heels, but he was Roosters' best player, and Satilli followed him.
I think at least over the past few weeks, probably been the best second rower, or the form second rower of the game, with Fafita in and out, suspension, and Kickout's been
Hargraves
consistent.
and Takiyaho were pretty good in the middle, but they actually got beaten up by
early on.
Haas,
I think it's a good move this week. Trent Robinson's bringing Takiyaho back in the starting side, obviously forced with a few injuries and suspension.
But also, I think he was still not 100% because I couldn't imagine him starting. Yeah,
he's kind of brought him on in those.
He was still a bit ginger last week.
Yeah. That start, Haas and Lodge were just outstanding that first 20, and it just pinned Hargreaves. He didn't even realise was on the field, which is pretty hard to do when he's on the field because he kind of makes himself centre of attention.
And they got it right in the second half too. They brought him straight back on and kept him going through the middle. The Paliasia on his debut, the young fella, he was really good, and he looks like a bottom dollar cheapie to be buying, especially coming in around 13 for Super.
I think he played a couple games last year, but the debutant we haven't mentioned is Suwali, who he was, he kind of justified why there was such a kerfuffle to get him in first grade because he was as composed as you could imagine. He was errorless. He did his job, and he wasn't stuck on the wing to kind of protect him. He was straight in the centres where people were giving him attention in defence. He was getting the ball in attack, and
he didn't get good ball. That's the only thing.
That's the thing. People are going to hammer him for it. I haven't seen too much, but he didn't really get the opportunity to set the world alight.
More as a wide running back rower because he wasn't
built like that.
He wasn't given the positions to be able to put the footwork on.
He had the one line break where there was no winger outside him, and he tried to get away. But
I think Tyson Gamble.
Well, he did all he could, right, in that side and the way they were playing. Did all he 100%.
could.
Going back to Albert Kelly, though, I think the biggest compliment you could pay is you didn't know who his 5'8" partner was.
No.
He didn't need anyone. He stood up. I think last time I was on the show, I was saying they've got the makings of a good side. I think me and you, Daggy, wrapped them big time. They've got a good side.
They've
got talent.
I actually
had some nice runs as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I sat down and did the my top 8, I had them beating teams that will be in the top 8 by the end of the year because I don't quite know who it'll be. It could well be Kelly and Milford. Who knows? It could well be.
We'll have to see how they go this week.
Because since that first game, Gamble's shown little more than mongrel. I think he's not a superstar.
He's a hothead. That's for sure.
I mean that in a nice way, mongrel. But if he can control a game and Milford can just be Milford, then hey, there's something.
Well, that's what Milford's been crying out for forever. That's all he wants. He doesn't want
Croft wasn't the answer,
control.
and
Deedon wasn't the answer.
So maybe Kelly's the answer. If Milford only touches the ball 4 times a half and it leads to 6 or 8 or 12 points, then hey, they're happy.
Well, he looked almost as controlled as anybody over the weekend's football.
100%.
I'd argue
managed a game just as good as anybody.
Maybe I'm overhyping him, but in terms of a single game this year where one halfback has taken the attack and just carried him, I don't know if I've seen as good a performance this year in terms of game controlling a team. Maybe in that situation.
There's a bloke at Penrith.
Listen. Nathan Cleary, he's just off in his own. Let's say minus Cleary.
Because I
was going to say Nathan Cleary does it every week.
Sorry, I could change my pot plant.
No,
Oliver.
But I'd say at least one of the better performances of the year, and I'd argue as well that his return to first grade was better than Gamble's, and Gamble's was really good. I mean,
100%.
if he continues to play like that, like you're talking about Milford, think of the pressure.
Plenty of raps for this game.
Think of the pressure it'll take off Milford. Now I know a lot of people are saying it's just one game, and it is, but I guess the circumstances around it definitely heighten it as well. And I'll shut up now. I've probably already gone way too far.
I don't want to spend more time on this game, but doesn't the fact that Gamble came in and had that game behind the forward pack, and now Kelly's done it, doesn't that speak more for the forwards than the half? Like until we see a second and third performance,
I'd say sort of half and half. You definitely need to give props to the forwards there, but I don't think it's solely them. Put it this way: if Kelly and Gamble aren't playing in a side that's as dominant in the forwards, then they don't have as good a performance. Definitely not.
Anyway, 3 points. Okay.
Yeah, Tavita Pangai Jr. for 3 points, Teddy for 2, and I had either Angus Crichton or Albert Kelly for 1.
I had Haas in the mix for 1 as well, but I'm fine to go either way.
I'd go TPJ, Crichton,
and Lodge. I have
Kelly.
Lodge in the mix. I think just through my
Lodge and
own,
Haas were tremendous, yeah.
through my own, I guess maybe bias. I forget about him, but he was outstanding on the weekend, and I think.
Well, I don't think he's had an amazing year. This was a really good game.
Yeah. But last year he was okay too. Okay, 3 to TPJ, 2 to
Crichton,
1 to one of the Queensland props. You reckon? Yeah. Or you've just talked about Albert Kelly for 7.
Okay.
No, well, the fact that I've talked about him for so long,
But I
maybe
think
we
Payne Ross is
should,
better.
look somewhere else.
Yeah, Lodge or Haas. Probably Haas.
Go Haas.
I got Haas. He was outstanding.
Storm 34 defeated the Raiders 10. It was 10-0 Canberra early on before the faders kicked in. I guess you can do some stats.
Yeah, 2 tries to 6, 1 out of 2 conversions, played 5 out of 6, 69% completion by the Raiders, 80% for the Storm, 25 out of 36 sets, played 33 out of 41, 1 line break for the Raiders, and 6 for Melbourne. 250 post-contact metres plus for the Storm over the Raiders. Massive numbers. 22 tackle busts, played 34. 13 offloads, played 19, 2 forced dropouts for the Raiders, 3 forced by the Storm, 372 tackles, played 310, 3 ruck infringements to 4, 1 inside the 10 for the Storm, 3 penalties conceded to 5, 12 errors by the Raiders, 7 by Melbourne. 0 bins in this game, no sin bins.
Hey. I messaged everyone throughout the game and said, "Hey, it's not like it's almost like it's not that hard," and no one even came close. Really, I know the intensity probably was second gear compared to the East game, but like.
Yeah, Huira Naira with 44 tackles, Eisenhuth with 35, Simonson with 129 metres, Nico Hines with 206, Starling missed 7 tackles, Williams missed 4, and Whitehead missed 6. Olam made 6 tackles and missed 7, and a night out, Justin Olam. Cheese missed 4. Supercoach points, Nico Hines with 138, Cheese with 106, Nelson Asafa Solomona with 89, and another 2 players before you got down to Huira Naira on 69 for the Raiders.
This reminded me of the game we watched, the other Melbourne game, where it was against East, where basically Bellamy would have gone in at halftime and gone, right, you big fuckers, you'll start running forward.
Running straight, would you?
Because that's what happened, and then they just started owning him. Nelson did what Nelson does. His whole job in life is to run those crash plays. He did it well. I thought Cheese's delivery was outstanding for it all to turn it round.
I think it was Cheese's best game.
Yeah, well, he sort of played. You go back to that Storm Roosters game in that second half. He sort of played the Harry Grant role in a way. He's
I don't think
gone
he's been
forward.
fit all year, and I think finally he's fit and he's just keeping. I know there was those 2 games where he looked like we thought he was crook, but
second and third round or whatever it was.
Kamika is he's a prospect. He's outstanding.
He's another massive human that way.
Big human, and how many metres did he make? He was
160 or something.
181 metres,
There you go.
which is tremendous to go with his 24 tackles, but just a very clinical performance in the end. Nico, as we've said, would be probably fullback at 11 other clubs in the NRL. Could ride he's probably going to ride his own check next year. Good luck to him. Johnny, what's your thoughts, and what do we do with Canberra now? Like, just forget about him?
Yeah, I think you've got to put a pencil through them. They've got a lot of problems. Obviously, with the George Williams stuff come through, they've dropped Hudson Young, who I thought was a very good performer from early in the season. I don't know what's happened there to
Dropped
justify.
him a couple of times.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Their problem is they have 27. They have a roster of 30, and 16 are back rowers.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh well, we'll get rid of him this week.
And they turn a lot of guys who aren't back rows into back rows as well, so which doesn't help.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
It's a weird. Losing Nickel Clockstad is huge. Losing Rapana is huge because those 2 boys do a stack of work coming out of their half to help their forwards kind of get that role. But even still, Caleb Aiken's come through and done well, and a winger and a fullback don't help your defence.
Yeah.
When they concede 1, they concede 2, they concede 3, and then it just crumbles from there. When you saw all the outs for Melbourne, before the game, I thought Raiders are sneaky, and they started well. You started like a Raiders team that you've seen over the past couple of years. And then all of a sudden, they lost one, and it was just like, oh, crap, here we go again. You could just see it in them. They were just like, that's it. We're 4 points in front of Melbourne. That's not enough. And it was just kind of like they didn't build on that platform they started to win that game.
And they don't have anyone in this team that's going to grab them all and just go, wake up. Like, even the Tigers have Tamo. For better or worse, grabs them and just goes, look, wake the fuck up.
Well,
I'd argue Hodgson should be doing that, but he's pissed off as well.
Whiten, we don't know. I don't think he's necessarily that kind of
Croker
player. Croker's not in the field.
Papali'i was out. Whiten was out. Papali'i adds a lot to that forward pack.
Guess
he's pretty much their big middleman. They struggle for front rowers. When you got Gula and Dynamis Louis starting for you, you know, there's a lot better front row rotations in the comp than those two.
At this point, I hate to be that guy who's bagging on the coaches, but at this point, the only way Canberra are going to get some semblance of improvement, it seems, is if they sack Ricky Stewart. They obviously don't want to play for him. The whole George Williams situation, what he came out and said on Twitter last night, obviously backs that up. He's had a good stay at Canberra, a good few years. I know people say we don't like to blame the coach straight away, but what's easier, sacking 27 pissed off players who at their best are some of the best players in the game, or getting rid of the coach they're not happy with? You get rid of the coach they're not happy with, maybe bring someone in better, or someone that's going to suit their style a bit more, like a Shane Flanagan that you brought up, Barney. But I mean, at this point, that's the only answer for me. You have to get rid of Ricky Stewart because they've got a really talented roster, but they just don't want to play for him.
Seems to be going down that path. But yeah, the Raiders were dominant for 20 minutes. They were actually well and truly in front for that first 20 minutes. And then, as Adrian alluded to, after about half an hour, someone sent the message down and gone, you blokes need to start running through the middle because you're getting beaten up at the middle by this pack and you shouldn't be getting beaten up through the middle. And, that was basically all over from there. The crash ball through the middle, and then that Scott no try I thought was a bit of a turning point as well. If they could have scored that try in that corner, you know, obviously it was never a try. He dropped the ball before he got there, but if that turns out a little bit different,
I thought it was actually
get your tail up.
His best game for them.
It was probably his best game for the Raiders this year. He's played well. He played pretty well last week as well. He seems to be getting back into a little bit of form, but the Storm just went into grind mode for the next probably 20 to 30 minutes and just owned it through the middle. Nelson scored a couple of sneaky tries next to the post, and it was all pretty much over from there. Hawira and Ira was probably the Raiders' best.
Has been for a while. He's been the one that stood up in that back row, and he's ball playing and hole running on that right edge has really helped, and it pretty much created that that Scott chance that he missed out. But that Melbourne side, you go there 1-17, and who came in for who? If that happened at any other club, I'll include Penrith in that. They do not come in within QE of anybody.
I'm just looking through a team now. No. Two things. The first 20 minutes. The other thing about the first 20 minutes is that they had no fifth tackle option. Like no one actually knew who was supposed to be kicking.
Which makes sense when you look at their 6 and 7.
Until Cooper and Nico Sidoni. But I do think they've now reached the bottom. I'm sure they're very good footballers in their own right. But your Cooper Johns, your Loriots, and your Booths, they're just players now. Like they're not your cheese substitutes. They're not even your Nicos coming in. They're not even your Riley Jacks. They're now the also rans, and you wouldn't want to go too much deeper. I just had a thought, but you're going to mute me, so don't worry. Go. You got to say it now. Jared Mullen. All right. Anyway, I'm surprised you say Chris Sando. Well, they've got Mullen in the system, so. But I'm taking the piss. We've wrapped. What do you mean they've got Mullen in the system? Mullen's playing for the Sunshine Coast Falcons. Oh, okay, right. Is that where Israel's headed? Israel? No, he's playing for whoever Clive Palmer owns. They're an A-grade team or in the BRL. Pretty sure something. I heard the QRL turned out today and said they're not going to. Well, here's the thing: the Catalan Dragons have got a. Except that he plays overseas or something as well. They got something there. So, the last thing Nico Hines we mentioned, but the other one I mentioned ever since Seb Chris got guaranteed a first grade spot, he missed 6 tackles again and made 70 metres. And I guess he's a case of now I've got a spot. He just wants to be like his hero Jared Croker. Yeah, the Storm set up that platform and then they started to go to the edges. And Williams was pretty good for the Raiders considering they've booted him out the door this week. Simonson and Scott were probably the best of the outside backs for the Raiders, but there wasn't much going on in that team. Cheese was super strong, as we mentioned, Naz as well, and the rest of their pack was
really good. But then the worst part is you look at the other side with Olam and Josh Adokar, they barely touched the fucking ball, did nothing. Like, they could have scored another 20, 30 points if they went the other side.
Oh, if Jerome Hughes plays, it's probably 64.
Nico Hines 3 points, Nelson with 2, and Brandon Smith with 1.
I had Cheese 3.
Okay.
Yeah, Hines and Cheese,
Nico,
3 or 2.
and probably Nelson 1 by default. I thought Cheese was...
We'll go with you.
That was Cheese's best game.
I'm happy with that
I thought
combination.
Cheese was tremendous.
They were my 3 players anyway.
All right. Penrith 56 defeated the Bunnies 12. And Barney, do you want to read what I wrote right there?
Myths.
Yes.
No, I still had South fans saying there's still a chance. You said, I asked in the chat, sorry to interrupt, what's their excuse going to be this time? And Barney said, they'll probably say Cam Murray. There was genuinely someone who said Cam Murray adds so much to this team. Yeah, he's going to turn that around and South would win.
He's going to make 70 tackles. South 12, Penrith 56, 2 tries to 9, 2 out of 2 conversions, played 8 out of 9. Oh, he missed one. 2 out of 2 penalty goals.
His first one.
Bad.
78% completion, played 89%. 25 out of 32 sets, played 39 out of 44. Again, 190 post-contact metres in the forwards is massive. 2 line breaks to 9. 28 tackle busts to 37. 10 offloads for each team. 1 forced dropout for the South and 2 for Penrith. 0 40-20s, 341 tackles made by South compared to 236 for Penrith. 4 ruck infringements to 2, 12 penalties conceded to 8, 6 errors apiece. Cook with 51 tackles, Coruscant with 35, Gagai with 151 metres, and Brian To'o with 219. Mansour made 6 tackles, but he missed 5. Sewer and Knight both missed 5. Walker, Gagai, Latrell, they all missed 3. There was plenty of blokes missing tackles. Capewell actually missed 6 as well, which is unusual. Cleary made 190 Supercoach points. Burton with 123. Brian To'o with 101. 4 other Penrith players before you got down to Cody Walker with 52.
Well, I told you Souths were myths.
Long before we agreed, I think, as well, so kudos to you.
But their forward pack got just completely smashed.
They don't have a forward pack.
No, they actually don't have a forward pack.
I've said from...
And they've dropped to, I don't think know who their forward pack is now.
From the start of the season, you look at their forward, they don't have one.
It's Tom Burgess, Murray and Arrow.
But you look at how they win games, they need to play fast so that their backs can get on top.
I'll call him Matangi. Goes all.
Their backs also sort of have to own the game for him to win as well. Like we saw how dominant Latrell was at the start of the year, and Walker would chip in with a really good game or 2. It seemed like they were sort of riding those guys.
Keep going, Johnny, because
I think I'm going to go along the same points that you're going to make, but the way they win games is they need speed to make up for their lack of power and punch through the middle. And when they don't have that, which they're not going to have against the top 3 sides, then you essentially just put a line through them straight away.
Yeah.
Because at the start of the season, you look at them going, who are they going to beat in a finals game? When you've got something tight and tense and you're fighting for field position, who are they going to beat? And they're not going to run over Melbourne. They're not going to run Penrith.
The game they showed themselves up was the Canterbury game.
Yeah.
When they got dragged down to Canterbury's level in a forward, it's just that Canterbury didn't know how to score any points. But Walker lost his head. They got dragged into an arm wrestle they didn't like. The next week, Tigers should have beaten them. Got dragged in an arm wrestle they didn't like. And ever since then, and Titans
did the same thing.
And they've, I know people say, I'm sure South fans will say, and they might jump in here, but you don't accidentally win games. But like they got out of jail in probably 6 games in a row.
The next 4 or 5 weeks, they might absolutely steamroll somebody, but it's not
and they have enough talent to do so.
The thing is with South as well, their past 5 games, they've conceded 20 points each game. Like, okay, maybe Penrith and Melbourne you can understand, but the Titans games included in that, the Sharks games included in that, they should not be allowing those teams to be scoring more than 20 points in a game. And I know, Barney, because I asked you, you said you couldn't find any specific stats to back that up, but I mean, the proof's in the pudding. Like, they're going to concede at least 20 against Parramatta next week, win or lose. I'm tipping Parramatta to lose, but they're at least going to.
It's complete madness that Parra aren't favourites.
Well, the thing is...
they'll win 13 plus comfortably.
That's crazy.
Well, their leaky side is the right-hand side. As you said, I did go back through the stats for the last probably 7 or 8 weeks, and it's Mansour, Campbell, Graham on that right-hand side. That's where they do leak a lot of points.
They're coming against a Parasite that is stacked on that left edge as well. So
the only problem is that on the other side you got Wackers who's going to try and make tackles as well. But we'll get to that later on.
I think adding to that, I think another game where they exposed themselves a little bit into what we're saying is that win against the Roosters, they needed to start as quickly as they did. They ran out and just put on like 4 or 5 tries in a row.
And was it the last 20 minutes? Even
that
when
was their
Cleary
best
was off, they
performance of the year.
they dropped off a little bit. It was the last 20, and Cleary was off for that.
That's it.
So, yeah.
They've got no forward pack at all, and they needed to start strong in this game, and they just couldn't, and it was game. It was like your big brother holding your little brother at bay with his palm. It was kind of like that a little bit, where they just never got back into it as many
They
times
need
they
to
tried.
complete really well and low errors to be in games with the higher teams, and as soon as that doesn't happen,
And this is the thing where this is the only concern. As much as I love Latrell, is that when East are on the ropes, Teddy will try and drag them out. When South's on the ropes, Latrell is happy to sit around and
he was still one of their betters.
And he was. When he's got the ball in hand, he's still capable of doing Latrell things, but he's not going to...
He doesn't do that extra.
He's not going to make a tackle break on the 70-metre line and run 40 and put Gay Guy over the try line. But closely, Latrell is an absolute freak, and as I said, I pick him Origin and everything else, but that's where they get shown up. I actually have a concern that Bennett might leave this South club in a state where it's going to take him a few years to recover.
Well, hopefully...
The lucky thing is a lot of teams suck worse, but...
The thing is with South as well, they're not really going to go through a bad period where they lose, let's say, 5 in a row like Canberra, because at least in the next few weeks they'll lose to Para, but you can't see them losing those next few games. But the big thing is for them, for me at least, is to shore up that defence and hold some teams to scorelines that they should be holding them to, so that next time they come up against a big team like a Para or a Penrith again, they don't get 56 points scored against them.
And even their best forwards, say you were saying Colomatungi, Burgess and Arrow are their best forwards, they're not going to make Jake Travojevic level tackles. They're not going to make 45, 50 tackles.
Murray and Arrow are capable of it.
Murray is.
But I'll say those strengths with all of those players are probably in attack too, like busting through the middle of the line. But they're not bad defensively, but again, their high points and what we usually praise them for is their attack.
But attack always gets the praises over defence.
Yeah, isn't it? And we've got this far for a team that's won by 50 and haven't talked about the winners. Nathan Cleary's a freak. He's the best player in the comp, if not he's the best halfback in the comp, if not the best player in the comp. We mentioned Mo earlier, but Fisher Harris is the best prop in the comp. They've arguably got the best 5'8" in the comp in a very weak pool at the moment, with Munster injured, and they've got and Burton's now in a conversation for best centre in the comp the way he's playing.
This team has to
incredible.
Win a premiership. Like they are that.
They have to stub their toe to lose. I can't remember a more dominant. And I grew
they
up
would beat that Parramatta team in 01 easily. Like I'm saying it now, they are the best regular season team in NRL era history.
And the first team I loved was the Green Machine, and that would be a cracking contest if under the current rules. That would be an absolute ripper. But
well, like Ollie said last week, this was just Penrith playing with their food for this entire game.
Well, no, I thought that it'd be a relatively close game because Penrith had let it be a close game for a while, but Penrith just thought, no, we're not going to play with our food. We're going to munch.
The game was done in 20 minutes. Walker and Cook were the best for South, but they were just okay. Like the Penrith pack dominated the South team, but there was no standouts either. There's just every player just turned up and did their job, and they dominated this pack easily. Kick out with 5 tackle busts, Capewell with 4 tackle busts.
But even Capewell's speed, he had speed and open field.
His footwork and ability to run a line is just. He's a centre in a back rower's body, but he's taken that on.
Because there was rumours of him going back to Queensland.
He won't fit under the cap to stay at Penrith, but he's definitely making sure he's earning as much money as possible. But even below those guys, obviously you got the top tier like Fish and Kicks and Capewell, but Scott Sorensen's come in the past couple of weeks. He's made sure to give him minutes in the lead up to the finals. He's been sensational.
Yeah, great.
Doing his job.
Eisenhuth's been great.
Eisenhuth, Spencer Lenu's been terrific. Obviously, he had a few offers in the off-season from Melbourne, but he chose to stay, and it's kind of justified. Those guys have come in. Obviously, Liam Martin came in. You lose Leota, you put Liam Martin, who's height-wise the smallest prop surely in the game, and even he came through and he played terrific for 50 minutes or whatever it was. So there's obviously that sprinkling of talent and elite talent in that Panthers side from 1 to 13. But it's those guys that fill the gaps around them that let them do their job every single week. That's just, Paul Momirovski was missing for a month, probably a month, 6 weeks. Yeah. He came in, he did his job perfectly as well. Obviously, Matt Burton, who is probably the smoky for that New South Wales side, for that number 14 jumper.
Burton with 3 3 line breaks, a try assist, and a hat trick. Like, what do you... Fuck, man. And as you said, Cleary, absolute masterclass. 2 tries, 2 try assists, 5 tackle busts, 2 line breaks, a line break assist, 450 kicking metres. Like, fucking... Just absolutely dominant in everything that he did.
Yeah.
Kulamattangi was the best, South's best forward, but Benji 0 minutes, which... I thought Wayne explained pretty well. He can't tackle. We weren't tackling, so I wasn't going to put him out there.
You don't want to embarrass him. Yeah.
Fair enough. Mansour tried hard, but he got exposed down that side. He got a try and 7 tackle busts, but...
It seemed to me like Mansour...
He missed 5 tackles and an error. He was directly led to 2 or 3 different tries.
He was too hyped up to be first in his own club, and he wanted to make that statement and he just did not at all. That was
Cleary for 3, Burton for 2, and Capewell or Fisher Harris for the single point.
I go Capewell personally.
Yeah. Shout out for Brian Toy. We haven't mentioned him, but another performance where he runs over 200 metres. Yeah. He's absurd. And
we don't give him points unless he gets to 300 now.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's set a new standard.
Yeah.
He's unreal.
Kick out Capewell or Fish. So, Capewell, I guess. Capewell,
sure.
I'm sorry to worsen your woes as a Sharks fan, but how did Cronulla let him go? Like, it wasn't like they were in a bidding war with Penrith.
Filthy,
they allowed, at the end of 2019, they allowed him to become a free agent, and he was a free agent when Penrith signed him. Like, there wasn't even a bidding war or anything. Cronulla was just like, all right, 18th man for Queensland, which he was at the time. Just go.
Like, he was on the wing. He didn't know where to put him.
So he was playing back row.
Yeah, it was back row centre.
He started
bit of the same that he was doing for us, but he's kind of cemented that right at spot. But another one was Sorensen.
Yeah.
I can't believe
in that same mold.
But he's grown.
He retired from the Sharks, and then News brought him out of retirement.
Yeah, right.
So,
Well, glad he came back.
Amazing what good culture does. Though. You go and you go, fuck, can't let these boys
chuck any sort of half decent back rower into that fucking squad, and they're going to look like they're going to look the goods.
But for me as well, with Kate,
Sorensen was always a good player.
Capewell was playing well at one of Cronulla's better players as well. So that was just a surprise. Maybe Cap issues, whatever. That's all I could really put it down to.
The club's been a fucking basket case for ages.
Seagulls 28 defeated the Eels 6. It was a tough game for about 20 minutes. I didn't see all of this. I was ducking out of Kriya Prezzo, but first 20 minutes looked quite tough, and then every time I ducked back, Manly was scoring. Stats barn, and then Johnny can tell us about what he thinks about this game.
Yeah, right, yeah. So we had 1 try to 5, 1 out of 1 conversion, played 4 out of 5, 81% completion for Parramatta, 78 for Manly, 35 out of 43 sets, played 32 out of 41, 4 line breaks for Parramatta, 8 by Manly, 36 tackle busts, played 41, 14 offloads to 16, 1 forced dropout by Parramatta, 2 inside the 10 for Parramatta, 3 for Manly, 8 penalties conceded to 7, 10 errors, played 12, 326 tackles, played 330. Both team had 2 sin bins. I didn't mention in the game before either. South Penrith 0 sin bins in that game.
South didn't get the opportunity to tackle them high.
Mahoney with 35 tackles, Croker with 45, Gutherson with 197 metres, and Tommy Turbo with 323 metres. Blake missed 6 tackles, made 15. Sivo missed 4, and Paulo missed 5. Kepi missed 8 tackles, and Olakatu missed 6. Supercoach Turbo with 159 points, Ruben Garrick with 129, and Papali'i with 98.
I tipped Manly, but then I saw Schuster moved into the 6, and I thought, I'm not too sure, but he was silky. And for a big man, that's a massive rap. His control, his skill, his soft hands. There was a period in that game where he put Carl Lawton in a gap, and they're all looking at Turbo and going, oh, crap, now we have to worry about the inside man. And then the very next play, he goes, oh, here you go, Turbo. And Turbo runs away and puts Brad Parker through the gap. And from there, you could see Fergo and Wonga Blake on the inside just going, we don't know what to do. Like, we've got no idea. So I thought, as terrific as Turbo was, I thought Schuster was best on the park. He was absolutely sensational, building off that forward pack, and it's something that you guys have said on the show before, that Manly forward pack is better than what people give it credit for. Paseka, Tapau, Kepi. Lawton was actually really good coming into that side. And Jake Trbojevic, like I said earlier, his brother's come back and he's gone, oh, crap, here we go. Like, let's turn it on. And he's been sensational for the past month, 6 weeks. So, look, he was kind of got shocked a little bit at how good Manly were. And from that point, they were like, Manly were just like, oh, crap, we know how good we are. And this is a real proper test where they got into a grind with a certified top 4 side and gone, we can actually do this, and just played their footy and just ran over them for 60, 70 minutes.
Eels will springboard off this Manly will springboard off this and be better for beating the Eels.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything you said. You've summed up quite well. Ruben Garrick was absolutely outstanding on the wings. The only other one I'll mention. I think you're a top 4 team. It's amazing that 6 weeks ago Desi didn't have a job.
This was pretty much a shutout, man. Like, I know it was close there for 15, 20 minutes.
It's the first time Parramatta have had to chase this year, and they did not like chasing.
But Manly
sorry to interrupt, does that worry you?
Well, I was going to
against a couple other teams,
it's Parramatta.
Yeah.
We saw this. This is where Parramatta were last year, and we've all said this is a better Parramatta team than last year. Is it about to be the same Parramatta team as last year or not? A question for you guys as well. I have concerns.
So do I, but I don't think they'll be chasing too many games this year against.
Well, they do have it. They do nearly have it almost as good.
Their forward pack's good enough to bully a lot of teams, so it'll get them through a lot of teams.
Nathan Brown doesn't like getting bashed himself. There's a few blokes of that. And in fairness, Brown was pretty good here, but
he
doesn't like getting bashed. RCG's out this week. Madison's got to get through the season. He's just re-signed, actually.
Paulo's been down a little bit, but they've got a couple of younger guys coming through there as well. But yeah, as I said, Manly were in front for pretty much start to finish in this game and pretty much most position on the field. I don't think there was many Parramatta players that you would have picked ahead of a Manly player out of this game. Maybe Papali'i, that's about it. He was the best player on the field. Like, I've got a question for you boys. Compare Tom Opacek's performance to Wonga Blake's performance this week.
Chalk and cheese.
So we all flagged it coming back, Waka Blake. We all
as soon as he went out, we all said he shouldn't come back into this team.
Well,
it's crazy.
The fact he's been named this week, like Parramatta fans are tearing down their social media pages. I don't understand it, but my God, I didn't name him pot plant this week. But what was the?
He was good.
I penciled him in for pot plant and go, surely you can find something.
59 metres. What do you have?
We'll get to it.
Yeah, go.
To answer your question, Barn,
9 missed tackles.
I've picked Opacek for Origin, and I think Wonga Blake should be playing reserve.
But Nick Corey's been absolutely outstanding on that other edge.
I think the problem with Nick Corey and Wonga is that you look at the...
You can't pick Wonga.
But the problem for a coach is you look at the back end of the season and you go, I can't play Nick Corey against the speed of Manly, Penrith and Storm in the finals game. You just can't. Because those boys are going to step around and go, we're going to target you and we're just going to play around you. And what Wonga does have is speed and physicality.
But it was so funny.
To the detriment of
first try,
that entire right edge.
I sent the message. The first try was, we've missed you on when he just stood him straight up and went straight through. And it was, there's Wonga.
There's times there where Wonga Blake was 20 metres away from Ferguson, who was holding his sideline. You can't be that far away from your winger, man.
And that's where it comes. We spoke about the Tigers. So whose fault is it? It's particularly when we've seen it works. It must be a communication.
And he's not quick enough to cover that much ground to get out there. So he's quick, but
and having the youngster in Jacob Arthur on the right edge as well doesn't help things as well. But you said Cody Ramsey put 20 kilos on his back row. Wonga Blake put 20 kilos on your back rower. Like, if you want to run the ball, if you want to run the ball and punch through a gap, by all means do it because he'd be great at it.
Go and be a back rower,
But don't be playing right centre and you've got Fergo there screaming for the ball for 80 minutes going.
And then you could have a front rower on either side and that helps your defence as well.
Absolutely.
Even though it was close for 20 minutes, Manly just looked the stronger team from way to go, I thought. Yeah, you're going to say?
Well, I was going to say at this point, I don't even know how Fiji can justify picking him at the end of this year. There's probably a couple better players playing for the Silktails in Ron Massey Cup. But anyway...
Eddie Gebney's here?
Sorry?
Or is he PNG? Eddie Gebney,
he's PNG. Well, is Marata Niokore Fijian? He might replace him.
I thought Schuster, as you mentioned, was really silky. His ball skills are really good for a big guy, and he's always had raps as being a 6 rather than a back rower as well. So looks like it could be somewhere that he could jump into with 4 and out for a while. So
Brad Parker also deserves a rap. He's been terrific on that.
I spent a long time looking at bringing him to Supercoach this week.
He's that perfect foil. If you've got the speed of Garrick, who can find the line, and you've got the ball playing of Schuster and Turbo, you need that steady centre
line to run.
Who can run a line, draw attention, but he can also link around them and play around them and be the decoy. So I thought he was terrific, and he's off contract as well, so he's probably going to earn himself a bit of money in the season.
2019. Ruben Garrick, Brad Parker, arguably the two diamonds in the rough, the two breakout players that season, who were instrumental, I'd argue, in Manly finishing where they did in the top 8.
Yep.
They both dropped right off in 2020.
They did.
So if they can get back to form now, which they have been the past few weeks, that's a huge plus for Manly. I just wanted to bring up, I guess, the intangible here for Manly. Obviously, with the passing of Bob Fulton, I obviously found out about the news. I was gutted as he's someone I know as an immortal. But about half an hour later, I was thinking, Manly can't lose this game. They just can't.
Supposedly, the story was that Schuster was... Well, Bozo found Schuster.
He would have found a lot of them.
And apparently told the family that there's no way we're losing today.
He rang the son, apparently, or messaged the son before the game saying, I'm going to have a ball terror for your dad.
The thing is, too, with Manly, we've got to realise with Bob Fulton, you could argue there are other players who were better than him to put on the Manly jersey, but he is Manly. He's played in premiership winning sides of Manly. He's coached them to a premiership. On the board, he is Manly. I know, but I'm just saying he's so much more than just a great player for Manly. He's arguably their greatest coach, their greatest board member.
It's everything. To see that given what the Tigers did for Tommy Rionicus.
And the way Schuster combined with DCE and Turbo as well. They just seemed like a natural combination. They all worked really well with each other. I can't see it either.
I'll give Manly one more rap. Eels took off Reid Marnie with 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go chasing that game. I don't think you would have seen that even if Panthers or the Storm were toweling them up. They wouldn't take Reid Marnie off.
He was pretty gassed.
Yeah. For Brad Arthur to go to that drastic measure to try and scramage something to get into the game.
Lachlan Croker, just to mention the other 9, at the start of the year, everyone was screaming for his head, didn't want him in the team, and he's actually starting to grow really well into that 9 position. He's doing his job, making 40-odd tackles and not making a lot of mistakes. He could work. He obviously needs a little bit of work on his passing game, but it's going really well. Kepi and Tapau, as you mentioned, is good.
Trev Smith's been banging on about Kepi for 2 years. So
he has, and he's grown in the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's come on leaps and bounds in the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's been super strong. Jake was good with Lawson and Sipley. I thought Sipley was going to get sent off at one point there. But there was about 10 minutes where he just put the angry head on and he wanted to fight everybody. But I had Turbo with 3 points. I had Garrick with 2 and Schuster for 1.
I just changed it, but yes, I agree with you, Barney. But if you want to put Schuster 2, that's fine too.
Either way, your boys. You can choose Schuster 2 or Garrick 2.
I'd give Schuster 2.
I'd Schuster for 3, so I'd give him the 2. Yeah.
Okay, Turbo 3, Schuster 2, Garrick 1. I originally did have Garrick 2, and I've changed it as we've talked. Tony Cools, we're just going to have a quick pop plant slap and salute, and then we'll have a quick break and punch through the... Not just yet. We'll keep going for now, Tone. Just 5
Settle
minutes.
Down, mate.
We'll get
you to the fridge.
We'll get another beer. The fridge. All right, pop plants, boys. I'll go first. Every single human being on the field in the Dragons. I would rather have spent 80 minutes.
We were watching a gardening show.
I thought the ball boy did all right. He was all right.
That's right. So they can all have it, Barney?
Yeah, Wonga Blake, six runs for 59 metres, 1 offload, which isn't the worst, but 15 tackles, 6 missed tackles, and an error that led directly to points. And he hasn't been credited for how many times he disrupted that defence. There's not a stat there for how many times he was out of fucking position and they just waltzed through the holes that he left in between him and his and Arthur, or him and his winger. So, Go ahead.
Turn that racket off. I'll say
background music.
I'll say the Faders. So not the Raiders. I'll say the Raiders in the second half. Went into the sheds at half time. Looked like footy players came out, and there was a bunch of pot plants. They replaced them.
I'll go across coast to the AFL. There was someone who sent a DM to Tia Miles. Plays for Hawthorn, got dropped. Plays in the local footy league. He went off concussed and supposedly it cost him the game, and someone thought that was an invitation to slip into his DMs and abuse him for costing him his multi. Which is
highest. I wouldn't. I'd pot plant, slap. I'd boot.
Highest form of peanutism. Speaking of which, you got a peanut for us?
I do have a peanut, and it's cross podcastial, if you will. Okay. So there's a bit of a story to this one. I'm not going to mention the podcast or any names. I actually still I like this bloke. I think he's a solid human being, but a person from a certain other podcast, and the podcast has been mentioned before on here, so I'll let you guys work that out, commented on a post by Clarkie's column. Clarkie's an old friend, actually helped me out a lot when I first got into stuff here. Shout out to him as well. He's just had his first child, a lovely baby girl. Pretty much uploading that Penrith are the first team in the NRL era to win 10 games in a row. Now, this person from this other podcast commented Roosters did it in 1996, and I thought, 1996 is before 1998. I'm just going to pop in and say, hey, 96 is pre-NRL era. This person replies, rugby league is rugby league. I was like, that's fine, but he did specify the record is for the NRL era. This person then goes into my DMs and he says, you back on the Clarkie train, lol? And I said, no, just addressing the comment. The NRL era began in 1998. Therefore, he's correct in saying that is the record, which is true. This person then goes on to suggest I possibly have an agenda and that I'm on the Clarkie train and starts talking about how crap Clarkie's page is and that he doesn't post anything right. I was literally just saying the NRL era started in 1998. You're bringing up something that happened before then. Sometimes you've just got to admit you're wrong. Something as simple as that. I respect someone who admits they're wrong before they start going off on tangents and starts chatting absolute shit like that. Because at the end of the day, NRL era began in 98. They specified that in the post. Shouldn't matter.
All right. Well, the politics of footy podcast live on air right here. Our salute and slap of the week. So we'll go salutes first. Johnny, you can lead off. Do you have a slap of the week?
I mentioned earlier, Haley Lukey, the debutant for the Cowboys.
Salute. It's gone the salute.
Oh, salute. Oh, we're going to now go slaps first. Don't you?
Slap.
Button.
Fox Sports. James Hooper, Paul Kent last night, NRL 360. Professionals, you're paid, don't be children.
Nice.
Slap. I am going to slap every Bulldogs player that's not Luke Thompson just because they're an easy slap.
That's such a cop-out. We should ban it.
Well, we've pop planted them plenty of times before, but I don't think they've actually been slapped. Maybe a slap will...
Fine, slap my week. Come on.
Braden Musgrove. I know he's only a young kid on the wing for the Knights, but he had a pretty bad game, and maybe a slap might snap him out of it. 8 runs for 87 metres, 2 tackle busts, but yeah, 0 tackles made, 4 missed, and 2 errors. I think it led to about 3 different tries on that side of the field. So.
My slap is for the Brisbane recruitment crew and retention policy to let Reece Walsh and Sam Walker both go in the space of a year. Good for you. Well done, Brisbane. And we'll finish on a positive, as we like to do, with our salutes. I may as well lead away. My salute is for Mr. Fotuaika, Mr. Mo Fotuaika. Oh, that's the wrong one.
The wrong one, Mr. Fotuaika.
That's all right, we'll play at the end.
Mr. Mo Fotuaika.
Do you have one?
I do. Reece Walsh is just growing into the game. He's such a young kid. Just pretty much every time he touches the ball, the alarm bells go off, and he's not just doing it for himself either. He's setting up these outside men. He looks like a superstar in waiting.
Ollie?
Salute to George Williams. I hope you're doing okay, mate. Going back to England, I hope you have an amazing life over there. Tear it up in Super League with Wigan, and I hope for the safe arrival of your young baby. Of course, his wife's pregnant, and that's one of the big reasons why he's heading back over there, not because he's trying to do Canberra dirty. So I wish him the best of luck.
Now, is he allowed to fly pregnant?
No, he's got to catch a boat.
No, okay.
That's right.
John.
Haley Lukey, debutant Cowboys. That was cool. He started crying as well in front, and so he should. He
try on debut.
By all means, he deserved his crack in first grade.
Someone probably called him soft in the comments.
So that wraps up the review part of our show. We're going to have a quick break and be back with the preview show in about 5 minutes' time.
Mr. Fotuaika, Mr. Mo Fotuaika. Mr. Fotuaika, Mr. Mo Fotuaika. Mr. Mo Fotuaika. Bob Double.
Oh, Damn it. Footy and Frothies, 26th of May 2021. It's the preview show. We're still live and going on the Beer Garden Empire streaming channel. We'll hopefully do this a bit more often. It just depends when producer Tony's free to host us in Chill Flow Cool Room Studio. Google Chill Flow Cool Rooms for all your cool room needs. We've got to talk some stuff, Barney. PCTC first. Do you want to run through that? Have you got it? I have.
No, I don't.
Excellent. Let's do Supercoach
come
first.
on, Barney.
I'll bring it up now.
I didn't do the tipping.
Tip well. Hang on. I'll pull up. Let's talk Supercoach, though. We've had some questions here. Run through the Supercoach comp, and I'll pull up PCTC as we go.
Yeah, I didn't do that either. How good.
Alrighty. So, anyway.
You're usually on the ball, Barney. You're the best of us.
Normally.
Question for all of us, or question for the Supercoach people here. One from the live stream was about would you bring thoughts on Walker to Burton this week, boys? Johnny, what do you reckon?
Cody Walker or Sam Walker?
I think it's Sam.
I wouldn't. You look at Burton, he's going to play centre for Penrith. He scored a hat-trick, great, 120. He's at a price where if you get him, you're keeping him. Really, he's not going to make money to flip into someone else. He's not cheap enough. I'd rather bring in if you've got him a halfback, I'd rather bring in Tanner Boyd as a backup if you've got a Cleary. If you're playing him at 5'8", I'd probably bring in like a Crossland or something. Now that Green's, he's just at that price where I'd love to have him, and the duel's great, but just at that 450, 460 mark, I'd probably skip.
If you could get into halfback, you could probably even pick up someone like Albert Kelly's around 300k if he's going to be punching out 60, 70 points a week.
Sure.
Which he did this week. It's probably not a bad option to go with.
My thought is I actually am looking at him as a set and forget 5'8", because Luai, I am assuming he's now playing full-time centre. He's probably going to get 80 points every week at a full-time centre because he's going to get a try most weeks.
Just be prepared to get that 20.
Let me just clarify. Munster's out, so I haven't changed anything just yet. I've just gone off Luai a little bit. I've got Luai at the moment. I'm starting to think, but there's no other options. There's no other 5'8" options.
I've cheaped
Dewey's
out.
too high. If Dewey was back in the 500 ranges, but if he's playing centre, I don't want to touch him with a
Schuster's not a bad shout.
And Schuster's the same price
as Burton. So
for the immediate future, I would go Burton. If you can afford the trades, which I've gone trade heavy early, and now I'm a little bit trade scared. If you can afford the trades, Burton at least for Origin, because I could envisage them resting Cleary.
As soon as Burton went into the centres, I grabbed him, and I think he was only in the high 200s.
Yeah.
So
That's the price I'd be looking at, and I think there's a temptation to sell Cleary in between that Origin period.
I would.
I won't. But
I have Hughes as a backup.
I feel like in general, in that Origin period, Cleary's at least going to play one game for Penrith. Like he'll get a game.
No, I think so too. But I can see a game where they just go, you know what, we'll just give you the week off.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like
they've got the buy 17, so maybe not.
I'd argue he's just worth holding on to because there will be that game during the Origin period where he does turn out for Penrith because they're not going to sit him out the entire series.
Nobody who's got Cleary now is going to be selling him, I wouldn't imagine. He's hit $1 million now, but if by the time you sell him, there's a good chance he's still going to increase over the next week or two. So you're probably not going to buy him back any cheaper than what you sold him for.
You're selling him hoping he drops 250k.
But then you're going to have to wait 4 to 5 weeks and possibly miss out on a couple of 100+ scores. And also, what you do to your team by doing that is you're ripping your team apart, and you don't want to be doing that, especially coming in to the back end of the Origin. Our league, we've got 4 players all in equal first on 14 league points. We've got the Nevilles, Beer Garden Empire, Idris, all you got, and the Pumpkins. Beaver held on to his belt last week. He got through with the win, so he's still holding our weekly belt this week. Todd, the Dominators, is running 5th on 12 points, and then you have 3 people on 10 points, which includes myself. And pretty much the rest of the comp is either on 8 or 6 points. So it's still pretty close. We're still averaging about 1,200. Our league average is 1,215 So out of 20 players, that's it's not going too bad. I think we're in about 3,000 out of 20,000 leagues that are in the competition. So
Brian Northy's commented in the chat, says looks good. So thank you, Miss Jordan. She sounds hot. And a couple of quick Supercoach questions. Angus Crichton, you just hold him, cop it and hold him. What do you do? 600. I think that's 605.
With that kind of money, but if you've got trades and you're looking towards Origin, it's probably not a bad idea to even try to go someone like the young bloke that
Palacia
from the Broncos. You know, he's going to play the next 2 weeks. He might not score massive, but he's bottom dollar, and you can free up $500,000 to either play somewhere else or just hang on to bring Crichton straight back in. If you're skinny on trades now, you're going to hold Crichton as long as you can. It depends on how hard. Like if you've used every trade from the start of the comp up until now, you probably don't want to be using all your trades over the next 5 to 6 weeks because you're going to run out pretty quick. So,
Johnny, what do you reckon?
Yeah, well, Barney said if you got him, you hold him. Unless you want to pivot off Crichton.
Yeah,
there's a
who
few.
do you go to?
Tohu's a great one.
Okay,
Luke Thompson's a great one. They're two that I've really.
I want.
Pupley I've got, so I've got about him.
Puppy, Fish, Harris, and Crichton, and Harrower and I can slot in this week for him. I'm happy to sit in for 2 weeks. In my position, I'm happy to sit in for 2 weeks. I have Takiaho on the bench as a FRF and Haas as well. So I'm just sort of going to get. The more I've thought about it, the more I'm going to just get through this week.
Yep.
And then see what happens next week.
So our man, the statistician Greg Thompson, is playing Beaver this week for the weekly belt. That could be an interesting matchup.
The only trade I will make, I've had enough. I think Brayley's time to go. I think he's potentially peaked out, and I've bought the cheese in for him.
That's a good point, actually.
And cashed about 40k.
The only thing is he will play round 13, so I was probably looking
Brayley
at holding
plays 13, and
So
then
does Cheese.
Cheese
I was
will.
looking at holding him
So
till
is Cheese.
13.
Cheese is 13.
I wanted to bring in Cheese
yes,
for
it does.
Barnett over the next 2 weeks, but now you've got Barnett. You kind of
The
have to
advantage I
keep him.
get with Cheese is if I really need to, I can biff off our back rower and put him back.
Well, obviously, I had George Williams in my half.
Actually,
so
you know what I might up doing. So
he has to go, obviously.
What it gives me the
Super League
option
Supercoach.
I've turned into Joey Bennett here.
Yes.
What it gives me the option to do
You're
is
about 12 beers short.
what I've given to Director Tony.
I've met the bloke twice.
Potentially what I can do is Harry Norris for another 3 weeks of making money, then I can get rid of him, move Cheese back to the bench when Crichton comes back, and I can go get Harry and have like happy days in my Melbourne little bubble.
I've sorted out a few problems in my team with I've had a lot of suspensions and injuries recently, but obviously I'm going to hang on to Kate Will. He's out this week, isn't he? Suspended?
He's out this week, and then he'll miss for Origin, and then he's back.
But I'm going to hang on to him. I've still got Josh Curran there that I need to get rid of. It's a bit of a hard price at that kind of price. He's probably going to be the one that I trade out for Palace.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at as well.
He's back
He's
next
back
week.
this week, they're saying.
Curran,
Okay.
he's not named in the 21, so
No,
the week after.
week after.
Yeah,
Ryan
than
Sutton,
expected.
someone
Ochoa.
that started to drop down a fair way below his average. I know he's just coming back from injury, but he's another one that probably I could be looking at getting rid of for someone like a cheap back rower to try and free up some money to
if you want a
upgrade
cheap,
somewhere.
poddish kind of gun, Luciano's. He does nothing every week and gets 65, and he's dropped a $500,000. So
And the other underrated one is Garner. He's not quite. He's not Luciano, but he's still a 60-ish every week, and he's a try scorer. The other bloke I've starting to get itchy about, and I've had him all the way through, is Gutho. I'm just he dropped off this time
I think
last
it's time
year.
to go. Yeah,
He's
if he gets named
694.
for Origin, you got to get rid of him.
I
think.
don't want to. The problem is, if I'm changing him, I don't want to change it again. So it's whether I hold him and then bring Teddy in after Origin, or whether I just because. Well, let's discuss it. Reece Walsh is the other option. I can bank 300k off this, or 250k. Sorry, and do what I want next week. Because the thinking was the other option I can do apart from Cheese, let's say, is get rid of Gutho, get rid of Kidwell, and bring in Val and Walsh.
The only issue
then
is
I
you
can
may
hit
be
Origin
left
with Val.
without a fullback for round 13.
Exactly.
And
So
you want
that's
at least
where,
one of.
So the thing is, I either missed the price on Walsh, or which I'll still try him in. And Gutho's not going to lose. Oh, he will actually. I think
I'm probably going to be
his
running
BE's
without a
170.
fullback
So his money's
in 13 anyway,
actually his forecast to lose 20k this week. But I'm left without a 13 fullback, and I don't want to go down that. I don't want to go down that path yet, unless I bring Val into fullback.
I notice you've got Nico in your centres there. What kind of price is he sitting at now? Because there's going to be a lot of people looking at him.
725. He's a minus 50. He's going to be 800k.
Yeah, so if you don't have him, you're pretty much
I picked him up at 290, so I'm pretty happy with him. But in the next, he can last me through Origin. I can move him I can get rid of Gutho, move him to fullback, and pick anyone I want. Is the other option.
If he continually gets a spot in the 17,
the only one I really want is Val, and he's going to be out. He's Origin anyway. So
you would think.
Would you play Val as a fullback or a CTW?
CT dub, because CT dubs. There's not many CT dubs. I got Laurie Capewell who's out. I can biff off Capewell. Put it this way, I got Hines, Tuo, Laurie, Staines, Capewell, Simonson, Fusatua, who are just going to sit there for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Simonson and Fus can sit there. I really like Garrick. Garrick's got a terrific.
I've had 5 looks and I've done it and reversed it at Parker at $2.99. Just because, and I missed the price on Harper. I would have done Harper a few weeks back. I got him in draft. Going to Parker here and maybe turning around at $4.50. But again, given I've been very trade heavy, I don't want to I can't afford too many.
Yeah.
My last point on this next 2 weeks would be obviously you want to try.
When are the two?
There's only the one
rounds.
super
it's
one,
after 13,
and that's after 16, leading into 17.
That's the only 5 trade round.
Yes, and that's leading into round 17, which is the last the last bye round, because there's no other bye round in the middle. There used to be 3 bye rounds every Origin game. Now it's just the first and the last, whereas the middle they all still play.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I have a question, and I apologise if it's a really novice question because I've obviously not played Supercoach for a few years, but I remember the last time I did play like a proper full Supercoach season, there was a period during the year, and my mates did it too, where we sort of refrained from making any trades for a couple of weeks just to sort of shore up our side. Now, is that something that you suggest people do? Take a period of time during the season to not make any trades,
and that's where that's the point I've now reached. Every goal I do now is cosmetic, and I'm now terrified that if I lose a Tommy Turbo in round 20, I'm
that was the last point I was just about to make. Over the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, unless you have to trade or you're trying to make your team as strong as possible leading into round 13. Just forget about it.
So,
hang on with what you've got. Take your licks in round 13 and try to build a super strong team leading into 17 and then finish off the rest of the year. Or do I sacrifice
17 and just go for my best is the other thing. Because if I can bring... The thing is, if I get rid of Gutho, I may as well just get Teddy and just cop it. But I think they'll rest him for a bit.
If I had Gutherson, I'd be waiting to see if he's named for Origin. If he's not named for Origin, I'll be holding him until after round 13.
And we're going to know this week.
Because realistically, if you can set up your team as strong as you can with minimal trades over the next 3 to 4 weeks, you can go and spend 5 on round 17 and make your team super strong again in a position where there's going to be teams that are only going to have 8 to 10 players. And if you can get somewhere to 15 to 17 players against 10, you're going to make massive inroads.
I'm almost half like thinking I just sacrifice 17 and just steamroll, given I'm leading every comp anyway.
So would you suggest that you should probably take that period to not make any trades either leading up to or during that Origin period every year, I guess? Have your team sort of shored up for the Origin period beforehand and just sort of ride it out? Then
over the probably last 6 weeks, I've tried to use 1 out of the 2 trades. So I've saved myself about 5 trades leading into now, and I'm going to probably max out my trades leading into 13. And then I'll try to hold between 13 and 15, and then I'll trade again for 17.
And is that down to Origin, a lot of that?
Yeah, because you can make massive grounds in Origin, because a lot of teams are completely stuffed because they've got a lot of superstars out that are playing Origin or they're injured or whatever at the time. And
I've clearly built my team around Kiwis, so it's good. Johnny, how do you approach your trades in the Origin period? Have you gone trade heavy? You got some up your sleeve? What do you think?
I went trade heavy early and try and build as many players that I can keep.
Cash.
Yeah. So a lot of my moves at the start have just been, I've had a few guns that I think I'll keep to the end of the year, and then just a lot of cycling through the cashy. So Reece Walsh I picked up the first week.
Yep.
I picked up Phoenix Crossland last week just because of their construction of their side. He'll play. And I think now is my period where I'm just going to sit back a little bit, especially because a lot of those guys that I want to finish up with, they're either not playing 13 or they're playing Origin. So there's
leave them till round 17, 18 and
exactly.
pick them up.
Yeah. So that round 17, I'll probably go all 5 trades and then have 1 or 2 for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And they'll be
I'll let everyone a little insight into my sick mind is that like I spend probably 4 hours a day on a Supercoach app and do every like what's been good is actually doing the draft because I can go and tinker around with like randoms out wide and I can get out of my system out wide. So I brought Morgan Harper in draft and bring in I brought Reece Walsh in a couple of weeks ago, so that gives me the little Reece Walsh on the side if I need him to make me feel good at night.
I'm sorry to keep harping back to this, but would you? Last question, I promise.
No, you're right.
Would this week be the cutoff, the last week to make trades for you, or is it next week possibly?
I'm going to probably use my 2 this weekend, next week.
Okay.
And then I'll hold round 14, 15 and then trade again after that, if I can.
Yeah.
The big thing this year is going to be the suspensions and this crackdown that's just come in the last couple of weeks.
You need
It's
depth.
going to kill some teams.
Well, you'd think for most players it'd be 1 week out, right? Which usually you can hold on to.
And I generally
Anything more than about 2 weeks, over $500,000, you've got to sort of look at pushing them out of your team.
And as a
because it
rule, I
hurts
try
your
not
team
to have too much money sitting on the bench, but like I think I'm now happy to carry a prop in that 450 range in case I need to bring him in.
You mentioned you had Togiaho. He's one where
Well, he's dropped a heap, but he's now back in the starting row.
you look at his scores, he's going to get you a solid 50 every week, minimum, even without goal kicking.
His BE this week's 80. He's going to drop under 399. If you don't have him, buy him this week.
Yeah.
Because if he's fit, he's
Probably
in
even
the
wait
top
till
5.
after Origin, to be
And you
honest.
look at who they're missing
After
in their
round
bench.
13.
He'll go back to playing that
Well, he's
60,
gonna play
65.
60, yeah.
He won't
right.
play 13.
If he's now starting and I sold him because he wasn't, and again I have him in draft, but Mr. Fotuaika is
Well, all my
and
trades...
no one buys Fotuaika. Like he's always 1.5% owned.
I want
And
him, but
he is a
Origin's the issue.
guaranteed 6, and that's right. So right now, not yet. If you want to set and forget, if you don't have your Fisher Harris or Haas, to me, if I don't have Fisher Harris or Haas, which I do, Fotuaika should be your first port of call come round 18.
Well, my last 2 trades were
If they keep starting him.
were directly to round 13, and my next 4 will be to directly round 13. So you want to look at who's playing. You got the Broncos, Titans.
Yeah.
Who else was playing? I had it up a second ago, and my phone's gone down.
What we'll do next year, though, I think we could, and we might hire the Cool Room studio again. We should do a live draft. That'd be fun. We'll broadcast it. 8 people.
They're always
I'll
good.
actually play
Dragons,
super
Broncos,
coaches.
Tigers, Panthers, but who knows how many Panthers are going to be left in that team
Yeah.
for round 13.
Tony Cools can play. Get the
Storm,
Supercoach, Tony.
Titans, and Knights, and Parramatta.
Does Anthony
So-
do it? Yeah, Anthony. Well, if Anthony does,
Anyway, let's wrap up the tipping.
Well,
Let's,
did we get any questions from our...
it was the
people?
Walker question about Burton. So we've answered that one. And
Sweet.
PCTC. So Tasmania, Andy, Just Bourbon, Barty all got 7 this week, which I assume was only ruined by Easts. Plenty of 6s. In terms of the footy and frothies, Jamie Keith now has hit the front,
Nice.
and Barney's second up into
that
the...
was this week.
Oh,
That's not the overall.
Sorry, the overall is Jamie Keith. He's come from
And not
nowhere,
me.
66. Gaz into 64. Flob 62. I'm still on 60. Kaz is equal with me on 60. So all close enough is good enough. There is some very, very average football coming up. Looking at some of the draws these teams are going to get, this is a very, very hard comp, I think, to make ground, unless you're going to get in the bandwagon of, say,
I think there's going to be some upsets. I think over the next probably 6 weeks, there's going to be some upsets directly led to by this the sin bins that you're going to
very quick one without notice. If you had to tip one team to upset everyone every week, who'd you go with?
at the moment. Brisbane.
To upset?
Like if you were going to, not so much your Melbourne and Penrith, but if you're going to go someone outside the 8 to knock someone off. I agree, Brisbane.
Brisbane Warriors, maybe.
I think Brisbane getting a roll. I think Warriors are already in that.
Yeah, and they're in the 8.
I'd go the Cowboys.
And that's a good call too.
I wanted to go someone different to Brisbane, but it's got to be the Broncos or Cowboys at this point.
Yep, agree. Let's get into our preview for Chill Flow Cool Rooms. Tony, like, how good is this, Tony?
He's getting sick of
beers this week.
He's going to do so much business.
It is in. We should do one inside one of those cool rooms one day. That'd be fun. It is Indigenous round. We kick off with who's got the best Indigenous jersey you've seen so far? Question again without notice.
Might be a little biased, but I really like the Sharks one. It's the best one they've ever done.
Honestly,
They've
really
ever
like.
done.
Sorry, I really like the Tigers one.
Yeah,
They're probably
the
best
Titans
I've
one.
seen. I haven't actually seen the Titans one thus
If
far.
it's the one that was weirdly posted on NRL.com, it looks really good.
It's just a
you know
random-
what? For Souths, who usually have a good Indigenous jersey. Theirs is really good, but I know there's a whale there, and obviously it's blue. But can you have it be red or like a colour that actually fits in? Because there's just this blue bit that interferes. But anyway, as always, like Anzac jerseys, it's not about how they look. It's about
on a Newcastle jersey. Someone said, there's all these comments going, well, can't they get rid of the NIB on the jersey? So they realise that's how the clubs actually pay for
Brisbane
the
one's
jerseys.
not bad. Tigers is good, yeah.
Yeah, Tigers. You point out the Sharks one, and I
Newcastle's isn't bad, but
Newcastle always have a nice one.
Yeah,
Newcastle's
that's
not
too good.
bad.
And usually I think it's Mick Lydiard or one of the Lydiards.
Brisbane's good. Brisbane's got a good one.
Glenn
Lydiard, yeah.
Who hopefully, spoiler,
it,
is going to be designing the Glenmore Park Cricket Club jersey in coming this.
A terrific bloke, Glenn Lydiard.
Yeah, I like
and shout out to Ty, who loves the pun.
How about our polos?
Can play cricket.
An ex-polo.
All right,
Sharks. Yeah, that's all right. Personally, I'd have the handprint be blue. I don't know. It's fine, but
all right, let's get into the English anyway.
It's about what they mean, not about how they look.
The Yagara and Turrbal versus the Warradoodji tribes. I'm going to stop doing that because
don't do that.
Someone.
Yeah.
I'd mean it with all due respect, so I'm going to stop.
Exactly.
Let's see. For Brisbane, what's going on here? Lodge is gone for Reece Kennedy to start. Milford comes back into the team as Albert Kelly moves to 7. Herbie's back for Melbourne. Jerome Hughes is back. A very, very exciting forward clash coming up. And our newest inductee, Johnny, you can lead us away with your tips.
Another thing that just came out before we went to air, Christian Welch is supposedly missing this week with a swollen knee.
Right. And they've changed, Kamakamika is starting. Wow, that's a big out.
That is a huge out.
Do we think that has origin ramifications?
I think it's probably to save him.
Queensland probably told him to rest him.
Yeah.
What's the Origin team here on Sunday? Munster, Grant,
Ponga, they've all had a bit of
Munster,
rest.
Grant, Welsh. Yeah, sorry, Jane.
I think this will be a good game, but I think Melbourne are just going to have a bit too much. They will go with Jerome Hughes. His combination with Nico Hines on that right edge has been nothing short of devastating every time they've played. And then the likes of you look at their benches, and even though Tui's come into the starting side you just mentioned, they've still got Nelson. They're going to be rotating through those guys. And you look at the Brisbane bench, I just don't see how they can cling on for 80 minutes to get that performance to get them over the line. So I'm tipping Melbourne, but I think it'll be a great game. And the fact that they're losing Gamble and Lodge. Gamble not so much, but Lodge is a big one.
Lodge is a big one.
Yeah, he's
Lodge
huge
is
for
a
them.
big one.
So they'll set them back.
Well, that pretty much is like for like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Props out there. Like I said earlier, with all due respect, I'm sure they're all tremendous human beings. They're at the bottom of the barrel now, Melbourne, with Booth, Lorio and Eremaya. I had Melbourne by 20 with Hughes back there. I'll say Melbourne 13 plus still. I'm going to go first try for the cheese. A little dive over Turpin.
No, you stole mine.
Popping up with his cheeky little cheesy smile, making me happy. And man of the match will be Jerome Hughes. If you threw Hughes into that game last week, he would have tore him up.
Absolutely.
And happy to say he will tomorrow, Ollie.
Melbourne 13 plus. I feel like after that win against the Roosters, Brisbane will be confident. I don't think they will win, but I think they'll believe that they can win, and as they should. So that'll impact the game a bit, and they'll draw it a bit closer. I think it'll actually be under 20 points Melbourne win by. I think we'll get a solid performance. I actually think Xavier Coates might have a blinder against his future club. I'm tipping him to score the first try. He might actually get a couple in this one. Man of the match, though, I'm trying to think of who from Melbourne to pick as man of the match because they've got options there. I'm going to go Cheese for man of the match. He had a really good performance last week. Got his forwards going off the back of him in that second half against Canberra, so I'm going to suggest he does the same. But honestly, I really hope Brisbane put in a good performance, and I hope this becomes a consistent thing.
There's a couple of one-on-one matchups I want to watch in this game, to be honest. The fullbacks, I like the way that they line up against each other with the Sarko and Hines. I think that'll be a good matchup. And both centre wing positions in this game. There could be the difference in this, the difference in who wins this one. I'd be surprised if Brisbane put in the same performance as they did last week. Don't get me wrong, they've got it in them, but I don't think that they can. I'm not sure that they can do it week to week.
They'll at least try to. I don't think they will, but they'll try.
I'm interested to see how Albert backs up after he's obviously the way he came in last week. He's going to have a bit more of a target on him this week than what he did last week. Melbourne are renowned for just pinpointing
Halves,
playmakers
yeah.
and pressuring them. So, and the back row is a pretty good matchup in this game as well. So I do have Storm 13 plus. I'm going to go with man of the match Nico Hines and first try Cheese.
Let's get to... It's not Townsville. It is Central Coast.
Queensland Country Bank Stadium, isn't it?
It is Townsville. Sorry, it is Townsville. Yeah, Queensland Country Stadium. Sorry,
6 p.m. on Friday. Cowboys versus the Warriors.
All right.
The Cowboy
Dome. Cohen Hess in for Tomalolo, so Gump will be very happy about that. The hammer comes in for Limaluo. Walsh for the Warriors. Walsh is 1 and RTS starts at 5. Evans and Murchie start for the Warriors, which I like, which pushes Bunty and Murdoch Missler to the bench, which I like. I'm saying Warriors 1 to 12. I'm saying they continue their form and get them into the rest. So I think the bench will actually come into play here. No Tamalolo is concerning. I think this will still be a very good game. Yep. Cowboys won't disgrace themselves. First try to Alungi to keep himself going, and man of the match Reece Walsh will continue his tear that he's on. Barney.
Nice. I've got the matchups that I'm looking forward to in this one is the fullbacks again. I think that's a pretty good matchup there with Walsh going up against Valentine Holmes. He's got a pretty... And the hookers as well. Robson has been making a name for himself, and he's coming up against Egan as well, who are both on the rise here. So pretty close all over the field, I think. The lineups are pretty close on paper. I think the Warriors have got the edge in the middle, and their bench is a bit stronger than what the Cowboys' bench is. So the halves will be the deciding factor, and there's just the Warriors have that little bit extra X factor, especially with Walsh and RTS. So I'm going to go Warriors 1 to 12. Man of the match, Tohu Harris, doing what he does every week, and first try scorer Reece Walsh.
Ollie?
I'm looking forward to this game more than any other. I think it'll be the game of the week. If it's anything like their game a few weeks ago, it'll be a great watch, to the point where I believe earlier in the week they were actually even. You couldn't split the two sides. They were both $1.95 to win the game. I am going to go the Warriors here just because I think they're a bit more of a well-rounded side, especially if the forwards show up. The class of Reece Walsh and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck will get them over the line. I'm picking RTS to be man of the match, but I will go to Alagi to score that first try. 1 to 12.
Yeah, like Barney said, a few matchups here, the halves. If Talangi does come up against RTS, I think that'd be a great little matchup. Obviously, Holmes versus Walsh. Can't be too common picking a winner. They've got the same record, score about the same points, concede about the same, but that Taumala out, I think, will just give the Warriors the edge. I love Jack Murchie coming into that starting side with RTS, playing off his ball playing and his strong running. So with that in mind, I've gone Warriors 1 to 12. I'll go Jack Murchie as the first try scorer. I think the Cowboys can be a bit susceptible on the edge. And Reece Walsh, like many of you, chosen to be man of the match to absolutely tear him a new one.
It'll be a cracking game at the very least. I'm really looking forward to it.
Players way into Origin is exclusively predicted by me. Let's get to the 3 p.m. game.
Reece Walsh, I believe he's also eligible if he chooses to play for New Zealand, which I think being at the Warriors, he might actually do at the end of the year. RTS might get in his ear. Just something that could happen.
Okay, whatever. 3 p.m. on... is this at Penrith Stadium? I assume it is. The Panthers and Bulldogs.
Jesus Christ.
Well, it's here. Bulldogs
another
Stadium, home of the Darug people. I can get that one right. Capel obviously suspended, which sees Liam Martin come in for the Doggies. Tapine comes into 9, which is probably good in, and Hetherington comes back, which is good in as well. Is 50 coming, Johnny?
You don't want to talk about the Tigers, do you?
What's next one?
Wow.
Hey, if it's anything like the last game between those two.
Well, what should we do? Keep going. Let's go back.
Yeah,
we'll go back.
that's fine.
We'll go back.
Let's go back. Tigers, Dragons.
7:55 on
is-
Friday at Bankwest Stadium.
Going to host? You can host.
Yeah, why not?
Jimmy Roberts goes to the wing. Talau in the centres. Tomamone makes his debut. Another one in the Ollie fan club is what I'm trying to say.
Who?
Tomamone.
I don't think I've mentioned him once.
Yeah, when you signed from South, you carry on about him.
No, it wasn't. I might have mentioned that he's an all right player because I think he is, but...
Fair enough. Burn and Fairnay out. Jared Beale comes back from Townsville pub to play in the centres.
He was playing reserve grade in Queensland for some East Tigers, I believe.
For East Tigers. Johnny, what are you doing here?
I think the entire entertainment factor of this game relies on which chaotic West Tigers we get. I was
going to say if I watch it with me, but that's...
literally, that
if
is...
you watch it with me, that's...
Yeah. But I do hope the Tigers use that right edge that we mentioned in the review show a bit more, because if they do, the Dragons could be in big trouble. They conceded a lot of their points down their left edge last week against Connor Tracy and, was it Will Chambers out there? Josh Dugan, sorry.
Yep.
So they could be in a bit of strife there. But yeah, like I said, you're relying on the Tigers to get excited about this game. Jared Beale coming in on the right edge could lend to how the Tigers do prefer going down the left. So with that in mind, I've gone Tigers 13+. Zane Laurie to score the first try, running off Mbai on that left edge, and Mbai, man of the match, just by circumstance.
Ollie.
I'm going to say Dragons 1-12 to get their win back after that dreadful performance a few weeks ago, because the Tigers weren't great in that game either. And let's be honest, neither team, I don't think the Tigers will be great in this one. I don't think either side will. Dragons will win 8-4. First try scorer is Feagai playing again.
Nah, he's out this week.
Oh, shit. Paul Vaughan to crash over for the first try and give him man of the match too. Up the Vaughnie.
Wow.
Nice. No, I think the back lines in this are pretty close, actually. I think Roberts coming in is to the Tigers' detriment, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it'd be better off having BJ there, but what do you do? Tigers.
He's right. I'm not.
No. I think the Tigers have got an edge in the back row and their bench. I think it's just a little bit stronger than the Dragons. And if they had their full complement, the Dragons, I'd be more than tempted to tip the Dragons in this one. I'm still kind of tempted at the moment, but I'm going to go Tigers 1-12. I've got Dane Laurie as man of the match, and I think the Dragons might score first. I'm going to go Jordan Pereira to get the first try over probably James Roberts. I think he'll be running that. So
yeah, fair.
Yeah.
And if it's not him, it'll be Nofa. So.
Yeah.
Hey, this game.
There's one possible thing to make me happy, and it might happen, but I don't believe it will. Is Cleary James Roberts, and he puts on the
he just
2014
comes back
after
and scores 4 tries.
But, it's not going to happen.
Now, I get that both of these clubs' fan bases, they do have big viewership, right? But how is this the 8 p.m. Friday game? Like, I get it because the fan bases, the Dragons and
I forgot to mention
Tigers
the
are both
review,
known for
but
that.
every peanut that goes, I'm never watching footy again, I turned off. The East Brisbane game was the second highest rating Foxtel game of all time.
Well, you got your two major cities.
Yeah, but so people are still watching.
People lie.
No, I know people lie. It's proof in the pudding.
I don't want those people to watch anymore, though. I don't care.
No, that's fine.
No, would have been because
you're ruining
everybody
the game.
in Brisbane
Yeah,
would have gone, the Broncos are winning.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
I'm fairly certain, someone will correct me, and please do if I'm wrong, that the premiership winning Dragons jersey, 2011, did they win the comp?
2010.
2010 is the highest selling jersey of all time, and the 05 jersey is the second highest. So in a,
well, I'm not arguing. I know why they did it because, as you've said before, the Tigers fan base and I know the Dragons fan base do watch games, right? They actually watch their team play. So I do get why, but I mean,
the proliferation of free-to-air Tigers games has not helped me this year. Even though
anyway, let us know your opinion.
Yeah, I think Tigers should. If Tigers don't win this, they're never going to win another game because Dragons were so bad. Talau first try into the centre's suits, and he should have been there a long time ago. Brooks man of the match, getting his running back on, and I think those two Tigers centres can dominate their opposings there. But if Jimmy Roberts is ever going to score a try, it's over another one of Gumpy's pot plants in Valami out in the wing. Now back to the Penrith game. Can we talk about this?
Not for very long though.
Capel goes out for Martin. I said to Pine and Hetherington back in, which both help. 50's coming up here. This could be 70 or 80.
Especially because back in round 2, that's when Penrith were playing with their dinner. They could have beat the Bulldogs by 50.
They're only swarming up here.
But now
this is going to be Cleary just absolutely feasting
Everyone's going to have a feast.
This is whatever plus.
I feel so
Cleary
bad
him out
for
of the
Luke.
match, and Burton's going to be the first try scorer, and it's business as usual. Do I have to say much more? You're so excited to say it. Tell us.
I just feel so bad for Luke Thompson. Like, I love him. Like, just sit out for this week because you're going to do everything you can. I love you, but in 1935, the Dragons beat the Bulldogs, beat the Berries at the time, 93-3. It is the biggest scoreline and the biggest margin of any game in Australian rugby league history thus far. Now, I'm not saying it will happen, but in this game, there is a real possibility that record gets beaten. But genuinely, if that happened, I would not be surprised. With all due respect, I can give, but if Penrith are playing like they have the past few weeks, going full gear, like Ivan should be saying, let's go for that record, because that's the only win they can get from that game, because they're going to win the game. They're going to flog the Bulldogs. They might as well say, hey, let's score 94. Why not?
I'm so excited to watch this game because
I'll be there, and I'm looking forward to this more than any other Penrith game this year. But
everything gets about the footy.
They score a try in the first 5 minutes, or what?
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
Penrith.
Well, the Dogs ain't going to fucking score one in the first 80.
I want to say, actually, I actually really like the Dogs pack this week. Josh Jackson back.
Yes.
I like Dory. I like Elliott. Well, he's pop playing a bit lately, but if he turns up, he's good. Hetherington back's good. Tapine's good. And Thompson is good. That is
Thompson is great.
I reckon Hetherington will try and make an impact against his old club and get sent off and be suspended for 10 weeks.
For 12 weeks,
yeah. Like,
rip Kickout's head off or something.
You know what? I might as well do it. Penrith 90 plus. Just for the shits and gigs. Man of the match, Nathan Cleary.
It's probably only like $5.
First try scorer. Jesus Christ, it could be any of them.
He might score. Who knows?
Nathan Cleary for the Bulldogs because they'll need him. First try scorer, I'll go Cleary as well. It'll just be the Cleary show and 90 plus. I want that record to be broken. It'll happen one day, and there's a chance it'll happen.
Who got 78?
Saturday.
Someone got 78. In
Canberra beat Penrith 78-12 a couple of years back. I think that's the biggest there's been in that was 08 though. Very different Penrith side.
Johnny?
To answer your question, Panthers to win by 51 is $5. So I don't think you'll ever see.
Aren't the Bulldogs 26
win by 51
to win by 51 plus $5.
Yeah,
but
right.
You mentioned the Dogs pack. It's few changes. I thought Renner Fatoni's been their best forward the past couple of weeks, and he doesn't even find himself in the
close.
in the side. So.
Yeah, well, he's playing for a contract too, and a couple of clubs are reportedly sniffing around. So
I think he's a great player.
He might have told him he's going.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't blame him.
It's a few former Panthers in, a few former Panthers out. So Katoa's out. As soon as he started to show few glimpses of what resembles a first grader, so I thought probably his suspension comes at the wrong time, but they do welcome back Topine, which I'm not sure how he goes at hooker, but just as a effort player to have at your number 9, he's shown that he will be more than happy to get the ball.
He's still 17. Like he's going to be something.
Yeah. Chris Smith, I thought, impressed on the right edge past couple of weeks. He finds himself out against the old club. Corey Waddell, he's been all right job, but like all that said, the Panthers could play anything they want. That 28-0 that you referenced in round 2 was on a boggy track at Bankwest.
That's true.
And that was literally the only thing stopping that scores tripling.
Well, the thing is, Penrith probably could have scored more if they wanted to as well.
That's the thing.
But they chose not to.
They were just, by the end of it, they were like, job done, let's just play on. But Panthers could win by anything. I'll say 13 plus, but I think it will be another procession of. I think that 51 plus is absolutely easy money.
Please break that record. I'm banking on it now. I'll
go kick our first try scorer. That left edge, Dogs suffer. As soon as someone changes their line, they suffer big time. So I go kicks, and the very obvious Nathan Cleary, man of the match.
On the extended bench, there's another one of Trevor Smith's man's, Isaac Togo, is.
He's been wonderful.
Yeah.
Have you seen much of the Reggies?
Yeah. So
because there's only Magpies in Penrith in reserve grade, isn't it? Like there's chances.
Yeah. So I would say that performance last week against the Bunnies, half that side for the Bunnies has played first grade, and I think 3, 4 max have played first grade for the Panthers. The way that they're able to get these boys to play to a level far beyond what they should be is just unreal. Taylor May, Targo, even guys like James Salmon and Kurt Falls in the halves, they've been terrific. They've been
amazing.
I'll give a rap to a bloke I went to school with, Johnny Faumu. He was a under-20 centre went away from the game a little bit, played St Mary's in Ron Massey, come back, edge back rower, and now he's one of the best props in Cup. And that's, I think, Peter Wallace has probably got a lot to do with that. Yeah. So he's already making his imprint on some of those guys coming through. So big shout outs to him. I think, some of them will be playing first grade by the end of the year.
Well, some people like to say how Penrith will be lost when Cleary and possibly Luai are playing Origin, but you got Matt Burton there, and Kurt Falls has been really good in reserve grade, and he's a half. Like Penrith just keep, we talk about the fullbacks and we talk about the hookers, but also in the halves they're stacked.
If Luai is picked, which I assume he'll be in the squad, but not necessarily play, I hope he does. Yeah, then it's just Burton and May.
But I'm saying even if you did go with Kurt Falls, he's tearing it up in reserve grade. Could probably do it in first grade too.
So I've got Panthers 13 plus. I think Cleary might even go out of his way to try and get a couple of his mates into the State of Origin team in this game, to be honest. So I'm going to go man and match Luai, and I'm going to go first try scorer Liam Martin.
How many times is Cleary going to set up a try by not looking? He has to do it at least once this week.
To Liam Martin, first try.
To start it now. So
when they're winning 88-0 to get the record, just to no-look pass to Luai.
Tony, you got a tip here? No intent.
Bulldogs.
It's cranky.
No, just say Bulldogs 13 plus.
Tony Cools.
That one.
Yeah.
Come on. Stop playing with buttons.
He's got the wrong headset on. Oh, you got to press that. There we go.
Mine now?
No.
Go again.
I can hear myself.
What have you done, Adrian?
I don't know what you're doing. Hello.
So it's all working.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
All
right. I'm not getting the back. It's working. Go the Mighty Panthers.
You're not getting anything.
No, that's a link issue. Everyone on the stream will.
Any more comments?
Too complicated. Now let's move on. Yeah. But any more comments, Tone? Yeah, tell us all.
Just move along, damn it.
I mean, from the people
you still can't
watching the stream, taking their time out of their evening to listen to us scribble.
I think they've all gone to bed.
Yeah,
No. Chill flow cool rooms, everybody. Let's get to...
here I am.
Yeah.
There you go, guys.
Director Tone, plug your YouTube channel.
Tony Curls Fishing and 4x4 Touring.
Very good.
Don't forget to subscribe.
That's it. Tony Curls does a good job. Can cook an octopus as well.
I can.
Yeah, but you'll check out his... you'll see it there. He's cool. Well, not his cool room, but he's a camper. He's got all sorts of stuff going on there. And
everything.
A big member of the Club Trev convoy from back in the day. I'm looking forward to doing it again with him.
We've got to get the Club Trev thing happening again, eh?
Yeah, I've been trying. Just one missing piece. You know his name?
Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
Club Ollie, let's do it. Ratings will go down.
Down from 7. Rabbitohs Eels on the 5:30 game. This is, I think the Warriors Cowboys could be game of the round, but this is on paper game of the round. And there's one coming up too, actually. What have we got here? Where we have RCG suspended, so Kafusi actually starts. Which is interesting.
He's been good, young fella. I don't think they've been giving him enough time.
No, I agree.
Yep.
And what do we got here? We got Host comes into the second row, and Cam Murray, there he is. Nichols goes to the bench, and Jaden Seward dropped altogether. So there we go. Jai Arrow starts is the other change. Barney, what do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I don't understand Seward being dropped. I know he's been a bit up and down this year, but I would have kept him in my team if I was running that show. I like Arrow and Murray on the field at the same time. That's their best chance of unlocking Cook. That's their best chance of getting quick play the balls, and that back-to-back 1-2 punch with those two rolling in after each other. Same time, Parramatta, I think, have the edge in the forwards just. But we've mentioned it a couple of times already, I'm extremely worried about that right edge on Parramatta's defence. I think that Souths, which is where they go, which is their left edge in attack, could absolutely expose that Parramatta right edge. I'm actually expecting quite a few points in this game. I'm going to go Souths 1-12. I'm going to go first try scorer AJ on that left-hand edge, getting inside or outside Ferguson because there's going to be holes everywhere. And I'm going to go man of the match Latrell because he's going to be on that sweep play on that left edge, attacking Parramatta's right-hand defence.
And I still think with Latrell, there's just that little bit of proving himself for Origin left. I mean, if Stephen Crichton comes out and has an absolute blinder, which there's all the chances in the world he could against the Bulldogs, because he's only really played bad at fullback this year, not in the centres. Yeah. If he has a blinder and Latrell has a relatively poor game, I don't think it'll happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if Crichton got the call up over Latrell. So I think Latrell needs to have a good game.
I could not possibly imagine Latrell not being in the New South Wales team for Crichton.
I can. If he has a really, especially because the 4 weeks out suspended as well really didn't help him, because we've not seen him play a really good game for a few weeks now, whereas Crichton's sort of coming back into his own at Penrith. Crichton would need to have an absolute blinder. No
this
doubt.
is the perfect setup for him, though. Running at that edge.
Yeah, well, Latrell would have to have a blinder, and that's why I've nearly changed my tip to go with the Rabbitohs.
Is Cody Walker as important to Latrell's chance? If they pick Cody Walker, they pick Latrell. Is there that combination thing going on or not?
No, I don't think so. I think Latrell gets picked no matter what.
You're more likely to get the Luai Cleary combination, and that's what they value in terms of a club combo.
I think Latrell and Turbo are walk-ups.
Well, I've got him in there as well, so I have to agree. But I'm going Para 1 to 12 here. I think they've still just got enough, and the Rabbitohs will give it a good go. I'm even tipping Latrell to be man of the match. I think I tipped earlier this year in the Melbourne game that they lost. I tipped him to lose and him to be man of the match.
36-28, or are you thinking?
Well, something like that. I think Latrell just sort of needs to have this really good game coming back, heading into Origin. So I'm tipping that to happen, but I think Para will outclass them overall in the end. So it will be something like that, 1 to 12 Para. And look, I'll go first try scorer Micah Sevo.
Yeah, I think Stewart being dropped for Hame Sele, of all players, who did not light the field up in that cup game that I mentioned against the Panthers last week, is a bit weird, especially because Stewart, coming into a time where he was playing Origin last year in a successful Maroon side. So that's surprising. I see what Wayne's trying to do, shuffle his pack, but coming up against the likes of Paulo and Papali'i and Madison and Brown, even without RCG, I think Kafusi comes in the starting side, he mentioned. So as much as I would like to see the Rabbits improve, and like you said, Barney, I think their strengths play to the Eels' weaknesses. I've still gone Eels big time here. I think the fact that the Rabbits will struggle to get over that advantage line against the Eels will really hinder them. So with that, I've gone for Eels 13+, and I think it could be like a 40-12 kind of similar performance as last week. I've gone Madison as first try scorer. South got pulled apart on those edges against us last week. And Mitch Moses, man of the match, off the back of a very strong forwards performance.
I'd like to pick something out of your predictions here, Johnny. I'm not having a go. I literally just want to hear. Mm-hmm. You've got Madison starting, I believe, in your Origin team.
Yep.
You're backing him this week. Personally, what is it you see about Madison? Because I don't think either of us three have him in our Origin side at all. So I just want to know.
12 months. He just hasn't played.
Yeah.
And I understand picking him. But
I just want to hear a reason from you as to.
I think if you look at the construction of that New South Wales backline and their back row, you've got, regardless of whether go Jake Travojevic or Isaiah Yeo, I think you've got Turbo, Latrell, you'll have either Luai or Walker, you've got Cleary. You need those guys that can punch through a gap still. And Ryan Madison is probably, aside from Angus Crichton, he's probably the best
one of the
in a New South Wales. Yeah, absolutely. And he's a naturally left-edge player. So that was the...
And long arms, says have an offload.
Yeah. And he can play 80. He's tough as nails, and I think he can really straighten up those attacks for the guys that can like to throw the ball around. So I really rate Madison.
Yeah, nice.
For me, I think I like what you said, Johnny. I agree. Parramatta, I can't believe that they were $2.60. They're in $2.25. They've been backed. It was $1.50, $2.70. Now they're $1.65, $2.25. Not necessarily I'm going to back them, but Parramatta should be favourites here. I think. I think their forward packs. I think their forwards will own them again, bouncing off. If they do not bounce off that Manly game, then we don't need to worry about Parramatta as a top 4 team.
Yep.
If that breaks them, we don't need to. I think they will. I'm going first try scorer Papali'i on the edge there, and I'm going to go Reid Mahoney with a bit of an Origin point to prove early on to own Damien Cook and be man of the match.
Yeah, nice.
Back playing his 4 minutes. I'm a bit like the other week where I was keen on the upset. I'm keen here that Parramatta can win this game. Halfway through the preview show, we're going to have a quick break and be back to wrap up the other side of this. Alrighty, we're back. We're back, Tony Cools. Roosters Raiders on the Central Coast. What are they doing up there? Is it something to do, I suppose?
The Roosters usually take a game there.
Yeah.
Most years. It's just weird because that's the Warriors' home ground now.
Yeah.
For now.
Affiliated with Wangaroos, so they've always taken.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Makes sense. TKO comes back into the starting lineup with Crichton out, and Luai moves into lock, which believes they haven't even updated this as Stuart Crichton there. Leo, lock, sorry. Did I say White?
Luai.
No.
Hey, he's that good.
Sorry, here we go. Rapana, Whiten back, Hodgson onto the bench, Sam Williams into 7, Thomas Darling still starts, back row, Harinara, Whitehead, Sutton, Louis Gula start. Isn't it crazy to think this was a grand final team 2 years ago?
It was a grand final matchup.
And last year, yeah, I agree with that. Ollie, you may as well lead us away.
Yeah, the set of 6 derby. The 6 again derby. The Roosters should win this one, 13 plus. I know some people are sour on them after the loss against Brisbane, but they're nowhere near as bad as Canberra. Like, if we're being honest, Teddy will drag him to a win, so that's why he's going to get man of the match. I'm going to say first try scorer probably Tupou. And I think Tupou will have a really good performance. He's still been good this year, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on him, including myself, in terms of Origin, because I've got Toto over him, but I still think he's been good enough. So maybe he does put in that performance and solidify that spot for him for New South Wales. I'm going to go Roosters 13 plus, Teddy, Tupou to first try scorer, and Teddy man of the match. I'm going to go with I'm going Roosters 1 to 12. I think the forwards can drag him into this game, missing a couple of key ones. It's very optimistic the more I say this out loud. Tupou first try, everything says right. Potentially jumping over the top of Rapana there. And Teddy will be man of the match heading into Origin time. It's time for the New South Wales captain to stand up. Barn?
Lineups on paper, Raiders would have loved to play every game this year on paper, but their performances on field haven't been that good. I think Josh Morris is a big back into the centres there.
I didn't mention that, sorry, yeah.
And I think Tupou might go up and knock it back for him for the first try scorer. So I've got Morris first try scorer. I've got Roosters 13 plus. I wouldn't be surprised if it does get a bit scrappy and that does get dragged back and it's pretty close. But I think the Roosters should just kick away at the end. I think a man of the match, Satili on that edge. I think
he was tremendous last week.
His last couple of weeks have been really, really good, and I think now he's going to be the go-to now that Crichton's missing from the other edge. So I think he's going to be their ball runner on that right-hand side.
And it's definitely a forward pack he can bully as well.
Yeah. I've gone opposite. I think Rapana's huge for the Raiders. I think these are two sides you'd probably be looking at their title hopes, you think, when you saw this one penciled in at the start of the year. But confidence, injuries, everything's a bit shot at the moment for both sides. If the Raiders can just hang in, which has been their Achilles heel hanging in, but if they can, the makeup of that Roosters bench and the minutes that their starting forwards are going to have to produce throughout the match, if they can just hold on, I can see the Raiders just clawing their way into this game and potentially getting over the line. So, like I said, with Rapana back, gives them a bit more strike, gives a bit more, helps their forwards a little bit, alleviates a lot of the pressure on them. So with that, I've actually tipped the Raiders 1 to 12. I've gone Rapana first try scorer, and I have loved Corey Harawira since he's solidified his spot on that right edge. So I've gone him for man of the match to cause an absolute ruckus.
He's actually playing really good footy. For that team,
he's their best forward.
There is that little element as well. The best they played all year was when Williams didn't play for the late withdrawal and Whiten controlled the game, and this is Whiten's team now, so he might well be a different Jack White, and a point to prove to actually get an Origin spot. If he wants to be Origin 6, he's probably going to step up here.
Yep.
Anything else to add in this game?
Well, sources are just telling me after Johnny's comments, they're bad and mean, they're the green machine, which is something I've not been able to say in ages because they've been so crap.
Alrighty.
I personally reckon this could be a bit of a controversial topic. I personally think Canberra have the best theme song in the comp, so I love referencing it whenever I can.
I like what you said about them hanging in, but their second half performances have been so
Well, the thing
bad.
is, I feel like if this becomes a scrap, it suits East.
They'll need Hodgson to come in and probably
Teddy
play
start
7.
getting really in the middle.
Realistically, if they're going to start creating points, they did give him a little crack there a couple of weeks ago, and he looked okay playing 7, and he could probably do something there. But I'm sticking with the Raiders. Roosters 13+.
Nothing else, Dad? Alrighty. Sharks and Titans, 2 o'clock on the Sunday.
Coffs Harbour.
At Coffs, just to run through here, the back line for Sharks, because it's all over the shop. Kennedy, Tracy, Chambers, Ramian, Mulatano, Moylan, Sean Johnson.
It's better than last week's back line.
Townsend is gone.
Dugan's gone.
And Dugan's gone, yeah. Whoever else I didn't mention.
Herodi's gone.
Whoever I didn't say is on the team.
Josh Hanno grows some balls when they verse the Titans.
Herodi comes out. Mulatano's he was the first stringer at the start of the year. Dugan comes out. Ramian's fucking 10 times better than Dugan is. The changes this week actually make the Sharks a better team. They're probably not going to win, but...
Sorry, I was just looking at Wade Graham. Like, I just had a moment. I was just looking at Wade Graham's name, thinking he needs to retire. That's all. It's just a moment. Tremendous bloke, and whatever.
He had one of his better games last week, actually.
And Titans have stuck with what worked. Mo starts. They welcome back Fafita, and Tino stays at 13. Hallelujah! It makes me happy. Edge's destruction here from Titans coming up. I think this could be very
one-sided.
I don't say one-sided because it's still they still have to defend as well.
Yeah,
but it is 13+.
That includes you.
I like Tanaboya actually keeping his spot because I think Ash Taylor was either fit or close to fit.
Yeah,
he's been named in the reserves every week. Yeah.
So I like that, and I'm going to go Titans 13+. I go 112 here, I think. But this setup fits. I'm going to say Tino first try. Just barreling over the middle, and Tino will look very good, and we'll talk about him as man of the match next week on the back of the good work from everyone else. Johnny?
Yeah, I'd love to see Titans 13+, but I just think they leak that much points that I've just scaled it back a little bit to tipping them 1-12. That back line is pretty evenly matched, like that 1-5. But I just think the forward of the Titans is just going to carry him that little bit forward. So, and a little bit better. Talakai back, and like you mentioned earlier in the review show, Trindle, he looked pretty good off the bench, so he'll give him a bit of a spark. But with that said, they'll be spewing the Fafitas back this week, especially against their edges. So
Julius hasn't been doing anything, but
and obviously, a few big ins, Ramian and Sean Johnson as well. But with that said, Titans 1-12, I'll go for Fafita, first try scorer. I think Brimson will keep up his flashy form and be man of the match by the end of it.
Isn't it funny? I think if you had 12 months ago, if we were sitting at the Gums or wherever and you got sent this team list from the future, we'd all be frothing about what a great game this would be. We'd be like, wow, look at this.
I think it actually might not be that bad a game.
I think it'd be great.
It'll be better than last week.
It'll be all right.
It would have been like we've been going, wow, this is a top 5 clash. And here we are. Ollie?
I'm going to go Titans 1-12. I think Cronulla have it in them to win this game. I don't think they will, but I do think it's a possibility. Fafita coming back is the key, and the structure of the forwards is the key for me, and that's why I'm going with the Titans. I feel like Fafita could genuinely score 2 or 3 tries and be that big player coming back from suspension. I think he'll get man of the match. I'll even chuck him in as first try scorer too. But what I do want to say is that I'm very much looking forward to watching this game with my good friend Barney, who was a Sharks supporter at the Gums, and that's what matters more than anything, friendship.
And that's why I'm tipping...
Mad invite.
I'm going to tip against all of you blokes because I just want to spite bet against Ollie.
No, hey, I just talked about love and... No, go for it. I can see... I can see Cronulla winning this. Fuck everyone. Except for my good friend Barney.
The Sharks will have to do their absolute best to hold the Titans in the middle. Titans have got a clear edge in the forward pack, and as long as they don't get torn up through the middle, I think the Sharks have actually got a bit of an edge on that right-hand side. The Titans' left-hand side in defence with Brian Kelly and Sammy. You've got Nakora out there. You've got Jesse Ramian, who I think is actually one of the strike centres in the competition with ball in hand.
Especially since coming back to Cronulla, you can tell he's happy there.
You've got Mulatano outside them. I think if they can get some good time and space out there, I think they need to not muck around too much in the middle. 1-2 quick punches and then start hitting the edges. And I think that's where the Titans can be brought undone. So I'm going to go the Sharks 1-12. I'm going to go first try scorer Ramian on that edge that I mentioned. And Johnson hasn't had a lot of time in the team yet. And we all know he's a super class player and he can turn it on. So if he does, he's going to be man of the match.
Amy's just written in and said, hopefully the Roosters can make it through without another botched ACL. So,
I think that will.
Anything to add, Johnny?
Or, another sin bin, couple of sin bin suspensions. That could help. A bit of discipline might help him as well this week.
And let's wrap up the week with Manly and Newcastle at Brookie. Ollie, you can go first.
So
sorry, what did you talk
it's
about?
nice.
John, sorry, it's two. I've got it back.
Oh, so it's at Newcastle's home ground.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that changes everything. Manly 13 plus. Sorry, still. Newcastle are, Jesus Christ, they're bad.
All right, Blake Green's obviously gone. Olakatau's out. Curtis Sirena named on the interchange. Good to see him back.
Oh, good, yeah.
And Ponga and Bradman Best are obviously big ins, which I should mention, which pushes Kurt Mann back to 6. So they're all tick, tick, tick. But yes, keep going about that.
What I will say is, at least when it's Newcastle's home game, they usually do draw about 20,000 to the Manly game because for whatever reason, Manly don't give a fuck about Newcastle anymore, but because of 97, Newcastle fans still like to get out to that game. And Newcastle usually do drag out a result against Manly in the home game, whether it's by a field goal or whatever. But Tommy Turbo's too good. He'll be man of the match. First try scorer, Sabra. Shout out to Damo from last week. I think Manly are just way too strong. And I am genuinely hoping Sunday afternoon, 4 p.m, get out there if you can, even if you're a Newcastle supporter, and watch Manly win and Tommy Turbo tear them up. I'm tipping a crowd of 20,000. There we go.
I think it's going to be a common theme, Manly 13 plus, but I'll try and look at some positives for the Knights to draw out of this game. I think Bradman Best coming back against Morgan Harper, that's something that they could definitely exploit. Bradman Best is a very big boy against Morgan Harper that's got a very slight frame. If I'm Adam O'Brien, I am looking at that Knights left edge, Barnett or Watson, whoever he decides to give 40 minutes to, which is insane to me.
We didn't talk about this, but there's so much, and they're right, there was so much social media backlash about how they're sharing time when the whole point is, we actually missed that whole point, but they need each other basically.
This is, so I was I was in the group chats as well saying this during the game, why is Mitch Barnett, who should be pushing an Origin case because he's that talented, getting 40, no more than 45 minutes.
And taken off for Connor Watson.
In spite of Connor Watson.
Who should be sniffing around his offload.
And you've got Lachlan Fitzgibbon there. I mean, if I'm him going, Mitch Barnett should not be playing lock. He should not be a pivot. He should be running those edges on the left, which he was at the start of the season, and killing it. If you want a barnstorming forward through the middle, instead of Suaso Su, get Tyson Frizzell through the middle and have Lachlan Fitzgibbon shift to the right. I don't know what this obsession is with Brodie Jones and Suaso Su getting them 40 minutes a game. It makes no sense when you've got 3 guys there that can rotate for 80 minutes, get the best out of them, and you've got Connor Watson there who should be there playing instead of Kurt Mann. It makes zero sense to me, and I was glad to see a lot of people saw it that way because I couldn't fathom why this is happening week after week. At some point, you've got to see your defence is struggling because of it, because you're taking off some of your best defenders, and your attack is struggling because you can't really put your best 13 on the pitch at the same time. So, I mean, with all that in mind, I don't think anything will change this week, even though they've got Bradman Best back, and Manly do welcome back Curtis Sirenen as well, so that's another big one off their bench. They've got Sipley, who adds a lot of aggression, and I just don't see...
I really like Sipley.
On paper, that Knights forward pack should be a top 6 worthy pack.
They should be dominating.
Absolutely.
They have the potential to be the best pack in the league.
Yeah, but with how they're playing, I just see Manly running straight over them. 13 plus, Garrick first try scorer. That left edge for Manly, how they tore apart Para, they could put 40 on Newcastle, and I'll go Turbo man of the match, obviously.
Imagine the spark a Mitch Barnett would give to the Bulldogs. I was just thinking, like,
Mitch Barnett
I don't think he's off contract, but if the Bulldogs went and got him, I mean, Newcastle obviously using him wrong, chuck him in that Bulldog side, and I'm not saying they're a top 8 side or anything, but him along with Luke Thompson would do wonders.
Gives you options.
Yeah.
This is the side that released Sione Matautia as well, because they couldn't really figure out how to get it, and he's their best.
And Herman SAS.
And he's ended up in Super League and really should probably have got an opportunity somewhere else in the NRL.
And with Barnett, he would start for every other team.
As you said, common thread, Manly 13 plus. I'm actually thinking that Morgan Harper might get the first try just because he does have that slider frame on Bradman Best, and Bradman Best doesn't move sideways.
Best hasn't been amazing either.
Here's the thing about
He's
Bradman
really
Best.
good at running over the top of blokes, but in defence, having to go lateral,
Bradman Best is a big boy, and he has learnt nothing in 2 years, 18 months at Newcastle, and his defence has gone backwards.
So is half the shape of Newcastle lends no favours to anyone playing outside their props.
That's right.
It's standstill, and there's no movements laterally. There's the footwork that they present when someone's running at them is inverse to what it should be. So they're facing the wrong way completely every time.
And most of the blokes that, when they run the ball, don't have footwork either, apart
100%.
from Frizzell and Watson. They're really the only two that have footwork when they hit the line. But, you got Garrick outside. Could be Garrick, could be Harper, could be Turbo, could be Sirinen coming back is going to be on that edge as well. So, Manly 13 plus. I've got... if Turbo's not man of the match, he's been man of the match every game he's come back, isn't he? Just about.
Yeah.
I do think
I'll be very surprised, and GT can inform us during the week if after this game he's not leading the Dag M's.
He's very close to it.
Yeah,
he's played 4 or 5 in a row.
Cleary's picked up a couple.
Cleary might miss it in. It might be 2 or 3.
I feel like though we are getting to the stage, and this is a real positive for Manly, where in certain games you could argue that someone else has played better than Turbo, which is a real positive because everyone's stepping up. Yeah. He's obviously the spark that's lit the fire under all of them.
But 2 weeks ago we gave DCE 3, which we agreed to, and Schuster has been tremendous. And
I'm talking about your Schusters and Manly's forward pack. I think a couple of them have had really good performances off the back of Turbo, right? But I feel like in a one-off game pretty soon. Yeah, I know. And again, Turbo's obviously the reason why, but it's good for Manly that they're not just being carried each week.
I'm saying this is slaughter of the quarter. This is these edges are going to be just embarrassed. Bradman Best will never be spoken about in New South Wales terms again after this game, even if he's not anymore. I saw some peanut named him in their team. Parker, first try scorer for exactly everything we've all said. Just one of these edges is going to score. Turbo will be the 3 points, and we'll all move on, and if Para fall off a cliff, Manly are a chance of finishing well and truly embedded in the top 4.
I'll say they're nailed on for a top 4, Manly.
My prediction, they'll be tied on points with the Roosters, but I feel like the Roosters will absolutely flog some teams.
Did you ask you the feedback when you put that post up about my bold prediction of Manly top 4 in rugby league, in my opinion?
I don't think we necessarily got some feedback from that, but most people said that they would finish top 4. There were a few that, like me, said because of their start to the season, they'll miss out because they will probably lose another couple of games, and that could be detrimental to top 4 chances. But other than that, most people said top 4.
So a lot of teams. Anyway,
let's wrap this up and go home.
Let's get to disaster class. Let's wrap it all up. The Bazunting disaster class. Where do you all stand, Barn?
Punting disaster class. We've got Mr. D'Agostino on positive $520 return for the year. Ollie John minus 500 and myself minus $268 return at the moment.
Where's Gumpy?
Well, Gumpy's had what?
He's had
5 goes and he's at positive 515.
That's why Gump doesn't want to come back on because he wants to keep his record up.
He's only dropped once. He's got 4 out of 5. Old Gumpy.
So we'll add Johnny to this list after this because Johnny and Gump will be they're now the new. Fotuaika off the bench, Johnny.
Not a problem. So I've got
It's the biggest rap I've had in my life. I'll say that.
I got Sharks.
And I taught you all you know. So wow.
I mean, if Johnny's free every week, he can start alongside us.
We do love the Gump, so he'll be back as well. But
Gump will be back.
He's got some situational stuff to work out.
Sharks heads ahead. Fafita from the Titans and Ramian anytime try scorers at $14.25. I'm going to have $10 on that. I've got Storm 13 plus, or all 13 plus here. Storm, Panthers, Manly, Roosters at $5.80. I'm going to put $30 on that. And I'm going to have Souths, Warriors, Tigers, all 1 to 12 at $28.80.
Nice.
I have $10 on that.
And did you include my win from last week?
Yes, I did. You were at positive 420 last week.
Very nice. Claw
Ooh,
back.
420.
Ollie, you may as well throw you whatever the hell you're going to throw at the wall.
Yeah, so I'm hungry. I want to eat this week, so I'm going to take this one seriously.
Big Dog's got to eat, does he?
That bet you were talking about before, Johnny, Penrith 51 plus, licking my lips.
Yeah.
So that's got to be in there.
51 plus, yeah.
Nathan Cleary 2 or more, and chuck in Bizza to get at least one.
2-0 anytime. Yep, okay.
Yeah, and you know what? That's probably my most reasonable
That's
bet
probably
so
the
far.
closest bet that you fucking ever had.
Johnny?
In the era of fullbacks, you go Hines, Walsh, Laurie, and Turbo all anytime, $15.
Love that's a very lovely,
Hines.
juicy thing.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you've heard before,
Hines,
Johnny,
Walsh,
or you've
Turbo?
been.
Hines, Walsh, Laurie, and Turbo.
Laurie and Turbo. Yep.
I like it. I'm going to go back to my double-header try scorers. $10 on Hughes and the Cheese to score, $7.80, which I think is a great bet in that game. Welsh and Holmes both to score, $4.70, $10 on that. And let's have 30 on Burton, Staines and Cleary all anytime at $4.50.
Burton, Staines and Cleary.
I think that's a great bet as well. Maybe you can just have your house on that if you need a second one. All right. It's been a lot of fun, boys. Our first live stream. It all worked. We've got to give thank yous to Tony Cools, outstanding director. He has kept us in the game. We got up and going. Hopefully we'll do this again. Hopefully do some maybe some Super Saturday live streams if we're lucky and he has us back. We might be pestering him a lot. We got some hopefully coming back to the Bet Bunker for Pro Group Racing. Show us your tips live stream down the road. It's all happening here. Of course, check out Tony. I'll turn you up. Check out Tony Cools. Where do you find you again?
You've turned up the wrong button.
We've got to leave you alone from the dials, haven't we?
You're the director as well. Yeah. Tony Cools, how do you
I've
find
got
you?
Tony Cools Fishing and 4x4 Touring YouTube channel.
Yep.
So you can go there and
Give us a like, a thumbs up, and a subscribe.
Check us out, yeah. Bit of four-wheel driving,
Very
plenty of
good.
fishing.
That's Tony
All four-wheel
Cools.
driving lately.
For those on the podcast,
Yeah,
Tony Cools
yeah.
4x4 on YouTube.
When are we coming on the show for a crossover?
Oh,
I can't fish for shit, but
I can
I'd love
teach
to
you how
come out.
fish. Yeah, I can show
Tony
you
will
how to
teach
fish.
you how to fish.
No,
Yeah,
he'll throw me off the boat by the end of it.
There's a rod behind you. Just grab that.
Yeah, that's for after the show. Anyway, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for sticking around for the 3 hours 37 of the live stream and
Wait.
for both these shows, of course. Give you a plug. What?
Shameless plug. Well, at 4 a.m. I'll be interviewing Reece Evans from the Bradford Bulls. Had quite a, I'd say, a good Super League career. Played for Warrington, Leeds, and is now at Bradford in the championship. As a Bradford Bulls fan, I'm really looking forward to it. So, interview with him at 4 a.m. this morning. In the morning, it should be up by the time you guys wake up. Would really appreciate it if you jumped across and had a listen. Should only be 15, 20 minutes. I interview a fair few players from over in England. I'm really interested in their careers, and when you hear me asking the questions and when they get into the stories, I'm genuinely really interested because we don't get to hear about a lot of them. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully you can jump across and have a listen tomorrow morning on your commute to work or wherever. Cheers for that, guys.
Very good. Ollie's multi, we've just confirmed $26.50 for his $50.
That's ridiculous.
Is it
Minus
that- hey,
50.
the Bulldogs are
Bloke
20
to score 2 tries.
The Bulldogs are $26 to win the game at all.
That's dead set easy money.
50 cents extra for my bet.
All right, let's let everyone get out of here. Let's get Tony Cools, turn the lights off. It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you for joining us live. We're out of here live. And we will see everyone next week. Bye-bye.